I hope that's not the intent, and you are here so as to learn something, right? When I say learn something, I don't mean you're here to learn some awareness about what's happening around you. So I'm sure newspapers would serve that purpose very well, right? Because you're all reading newspapers, correct? Yes. So that's why I'm here to test whether you're all reading newspaper or not. Okay. So let's take a small test. Can someone tell me how you does it even seem familiar? And if you feel that yes, this text appears familiar to me, just keep it with you. Okay. Just raise your hands and don't tell me where you have read that. Okay. Does this text seem familiar? Okay. If it's familiar, just raise your hands. Okay. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. Others, totally strange. Okay, no problem. More opportunity. If not that, okay, please raise your hands again. Okay, so still, I think it's not even 20% of the class strength, correct? These are the two editorials of the last 2 days of Hindu newspaper. Okay, it's sad that 80% of the class do not read newspaper. And that explains the reason why 80% of the class will not clear this examination. Correct? I'm sure some of you will start walking out of the class. He's demotivating me. Okay. If reality is shown to you, you get offended. But you will anyway know the reality after 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, 8 years of attempts. Okay. So don't have that issue later. Simple. The formula of cracking this exam is very, very simple. You just have to have a routine habit of being in touch every day with your Hindu newspaper. Okay. So if I were to credit what made me clear this exam, 60% of the credit just goes to newspaper blindly. Okay. When I say 60% credit just goes to newspaper is not simply for the purpose of awareness, but it's for the purpose of knowing what more directions to open your eyes and look forward. Okay. Okay. When a news comes in the newspaper, how do you look forward and what all do you search? How all your thought is triggered? To what all directions do you diversify from there? That is what is called current affairs preparation. Okay. Current affairs is overrated for this exam, but current affairs skills is underrated for this examination. Okay. Current affairs is overrated. People tend to read all this daily news compilations. No? A lot of academies come with daily news compilations. It's like a competitive field. One academy starts coming, it finds takers. Other academies don't want to be left behind. So they also start coming up with daily summary of Hindu newspaper. Right? So that's all awareness. That is of no use for this examination. And to understand that simply knowing whatever comes in the newspaper may not be useful, you have to first have done a clear analysis of last 2 to 3 years of prelims and mains question papers. I don't know how many of you have done all that. Right? At least if this year's mains is out, it's over, right? Mains examination. How many of you have done a complete analysis of all 4 papers of your GS papers of mains? Otherwise, you are behind with respect to the pace at which your competition is moving forward. Okay, your competitors are not those who are sitting next to you here and there. It's an imaginary, invisible competition who are scattered all across country. Okay. அதனால அவங்க எல்லாம் என்ன பண்றாங்கிறது உங்களுக்கு கணக்கு தெரியறது இல்லை அப்படிங்கிறதுனால you are assuming that you're going the right direction because you are assuming that attending classes is all that matters for clearing this examination. Attending classes is important, no doubt, because that builds a lot of basic competencies. Your basic awareness of a lot of topics is built from classes. But if you think that is a sufficient condition to crack this examination, you're utterly mistaken. Right? You have to go a lot of distance beyond that to make sure you develop the necessary skills. You build in the competencies that are required to confidently attempt a question, even though you may not be very sure about what that answer is in your prelims, but still confidently attempting it, and still with the assurance that there is some logic which you have used. That confidence will help you to attempt the next question with complete peace of mind. Right? This examination is after all a mind game. People fail in CSAT not because the paper is difficult. Let me tell you, last year 27 questions were asked from reading comprehension in CSAT. Okay. I'm sure if you're good at reading, comprehending, writing, speaking, இந்த 4 skill ஒழுங்கா இருந்துச்சு அப்படின்னா 22 questions getting them right is no big deal. You can easily get it. 22 into 2.5 automatically brings your score to 50 plus. From all the other mathematics questions, you only need another 15 or 20 more marks. Okay, and people who tend to bank upon mathematics as their pillar of support to clear this examination, they are the ones who will be badly hurt with a paper like last year's CSAT paper. Okay? Because people have started assuming that reading comprehension is unpredictable, you may not be able to get the right answer even after spending time. Better you focus on mathematics. And UPSC is very clear, it doesn't want people only with mathematics skills. It wants people with good comprehension skills, because the kind of work that you do tomorrow as an IAS officer or any other bureaucrat, the work is predominantly reading and comprehending mountains of files. Okay, நல்ல reading skill வேணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுனால UPSC is ensuring that you are eliminated if you simply depend upon math skills. Okay, so anyway, that's not the point of this discussion. The point of this discussion is, if you keep focusing only on maths, neglecting CSAT, what happens is you start depending excessively on mathematics. And UPSC can give a small twist. Maths எல்லாம் அப்படி கொஞ்சம் ஒரு level difficulty அதிகப்படுத்திட்டாங்கன்னா exam முடிஞ்சு போச்சு. Correct? 1 year, 2 years of preparation is gone waste. Right? So that is what I meant by, அது என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா மேக்ஸ் மட்டும் நம்பி போறீங்க அப்படிங்கிறப்ப அங்க போய் ஒர்க் பண்ணு, யூ ஸ்டார்ட் ஒர்க்கிங் அவுட் 5 minutes, not even a single question you get right. Next, you tend to choose the next question. அப்பயே ஒரு பேனிக் உள்ள பில்ட் ஆகும், ஒரு நர்வஸ்னஸ் உள்ள பில்ட் ஆகும், மைண்ட் யோசிக்காது ஃப்ரீயா. ஓகே, தட் deconstruction of the problem will not happen. Your emotions becomes your defeating factor, not the difficulty of the paper. Actually speaking, பெண்ணை பேப்பர்லேயே வைக்காம ஒரு 10 கேள்வி அந்த மேக்ஸ், குவான்ட்ஸ், ரீசனிங் அதுல இருந்து சால்வ் பண்ணலாம். பட் என்னன்னா மைண்ட் கிளியரா இருக்காது அந்த இடத்துல, அந்த 10 எதுன்னு கரெக்டா எடுக்கிறதுக்கு. அந்த மைண்ட் கிளியரா இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னா ரீடிங் காம்ப்ரிஹென்ஷன் should have been perfect over there. Okay, so anyway, the point I'm trying to say is, it's only when you have the necessary confidence and necessary skills of a broad preparation that you have already put in place, அது இருந்தா தான் GS ல வந்து அந்த emotional security will be there. You know, that emotional security, that calmness. Many people are missing out. I'll tell you what is the logic, what is the reason why people fail in GS paper. First attempt, they give attempt 60-65 questions. Okay, அதோட நிறுத்தி வந்திருந்தா கூட கிளியர் பண்ணிருக்கலாம். Somehow they are not sure about what they have attempted. அதனால என்ன பண்றாங்க, next round they go on attempt 20 questions. Okay, assuming that probability will work in their favor. Okay, 20ல 18 கேள்வி தப்பா போகும். ஓகே, இங்க டெஸ்ட் சீரிஸ்ல பண்ணும்போது 10 கேள்வி கரெக்ட் வரும், 10 தப்பா போகும். யூபிஎஸ்சில போய் பண்ணும்போது 18 தப்பா போகலாம், 15 தப்பா போகலாம். That will all pull you down basically. But why were you not able to stop with 65 questions? The reason is because lack of preparation brings that lack of confidence. Okay, and the preparation சொல்றது என்னன்னா, it is about going beyond the classes, because you see classes are very structured. No? You have only 200-250 sessions, correct? Because 1 year time la எவ்வளவுதான் ஸ்பெஷல் கிளாஸ் எல்லாம் வச்சா கூட அவ்வளவுதான் எங்களால கொடுக்க முடியும், correct? 200 to 250 classes. No, every academy will only do that. In that, what can be packaged? Maybe 40 hours of polity, 40 hours of geography, 40 hours of history, all that can be packaged. But அந்த 40 hours உங்களுக்கு என்ன சொல்லி கொடுக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னா, எடுத்தோன்னு அமிஷ் தேவ்கன் கேஸ், குஷ்பு vs கண்டியம்மாள் கேஸ் இப்படி சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தா பாதி பேர் you'll get the money refunded and you'll run away, right? But that is what UPSC will expect you in mains examination, correct? So that is why our 40 hours is spent only on building you what is fundamental rights, what is DPSP. இதை சொல்லி கொடுக்கறதுக்கே 40 hours முடிஞ்சு போகும். That is why what matters for clear this examination, it tends to not being addressed because of paucity of time, because of you are also not having the patience. Okay, how many of you are ready to postpone this year's attempt to wait for 1 more year for classes? alla attend panni apparama porumaiya kuduthukkalam. Are you ready? Even after knowing that nobody clears in the first attempt, still you are not ready, correct? Right? So see, this is the rat race with which aspirants tend to get stuck in this process, and a lot of disappointments also happen after the first attempt is over, right? Because I can assure you, it is taking, when I clear this exam as well, it took me 2.5 years of preparation. Okay, 2 வருஷம் படிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் வந்து IRS வாங்க முடிஞ்சது, திருப்பி ஒரு வருஷம் ஃபுல்லா உட்காந்து படிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் IAS வாங்க முடிஞ்சது. அதே மாதிரி தான் இப்பயும் நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு. Even for All India Rank 1, Sakthyakrishnan, 4-5 years I think. Exam first attempt-க்கும் second attempt-க்குமே பாத்தீங்கன்னா there is a 2-3 years of gap. Imagine the time that she would have put before giving her first attempt. So much of years gets into this process. Okay, so but we tend to intentionally turn blind to this reality, and when you start turning blind, you start adopting all shortcuts. And the shortcuts are important. Ide enna not reading newspaper because you feel it's waste of time. Okay, how many of you are watching YouTube analysis newspaper? எஸ், அதெல்லாம் பண்ணக்கூடாது. அதெல்லாம் இருக்கக்கூடாது. Because that is what is going to kill you in this preparation. Your CSAT skills will be dead. Okay, you will not be able to develop your comprehension skills. YouTube analysis, you guys are freshers, so you don't know the lack of completeness of YouTube analysis. Only those, see, they also operate under some constraint. What is the constraint? A video should not be more than 30-35 minutes. அதுக்கு மேல போச்சுன்னா வியூவர்ஷிப் குறைஞ்சிரும். Correct. So everything is business. So 30-35 minutes குள்ள என்ன பண்ண முடியுமோ அதான் பண்ணும். So in the 30-35 minutes, what will be done? Only those I told that are easy for them to understand and explain will be explained to you. Okay, I've often observed that. Just keep checking other YouTube channels and everybody what they're doing. The ones which I feel are more important for this exam, they do not even touch it. என்னன்னா புரியாது. புரிஞ்சாலும் எப்படி சொல்லிக் கொடுக்குறதுங்கிறத அது சொல்லிக் கொடுக்கணும். It will take 1.5 to 2 years of time, 2 hours of time to explain the concept clearly. So that is why there is a higher possibility of you being misdirected in your preparation when you start developing dependencies external to your preparation. But if you put your dependency on your own preparation, you will be on the right track. The thing is, we tend to believe in external sources of support. Correct? அதெல்லாம் இருக்கு, இவங்க இருக்காங்க, அவங்க இருக்காங்க, இருக்காங்க அப்படின்னா எக்ஸாம் இருக்காது கடைசி. Right? So that is why you have to develop that skill set of learning from newspaper, utilizing newspaper, not simply reading newspaper. Okay, so whether you have learned or not from the last few years, few months newspapers, I have a small test, okay, to check you. So it can also be a wake up call for all of you as well, because you should not be under the illusion that எனக்கு தெரியும் article 14 to article 18, I am very thorough with that. Okay, ஆனா யூபிஎஸ்ல வேற மாதிரி கேள்வி கேட்டிருக்கோம். Okay, have you heard of this word grounds of intelligible differentiation? Yes, it is in the context of which article? Article 14. Correct. Hadia case. Okay, Hadia case is what clarifies on what is the meaning of the word state given in article 12. Right? So நிறைய மீனிங் இருக்கு, எந்தெந்த பாடிஸ்லாம் அதுல வருது அப்படிங்கிறதுலாம். ஸோ என்ன சொல்ல வரேன்னா, that is all your responsibility only. Academy cannot give you every minutest detail. Okay, அது பண்றதுக்கு newspaper is a wonderful source to start doing that. Okay, that only, see, if 80% are not even touching the newspaper, you don't even know what is their newspaper. அப்புறம் எங்க இதுல இருந்து எக்ஸ்ட்ராவா போய் படிக்கிறது, கேஸ் லாஸ் எல்லாம் எடுத்து கம்பைலேஷன் ரெடி பண்ணி வைக்கிறது. Okay, look at, I'll show you the questions. Once you understand the nature of questions, you will soon understand what kind of current affairs preparation has to go. Right, a very lateral preparation has to be done beyond your textbooks. Okay, and moreover, the relevance of newspaper, relevance of current affairs also varies across subjects. Okay, for example, in polity, when I show you the questions asked last year in prelims, 16 questions were asked. I don't even think a single question can be directly maybe 1 or 2 questions can be traced from newspaper articles. Everything else is related to some philosophy behind those articles. If map based questions directly you can trace from newspaper. Right, everybody predicted last year something related to Ukraine and Russia map area will be asked. When US withdraw completely from Afghanistan, it was expected that year the bordering nations of Afghanistan will be asked. Correct. So some areas are very directly predictable, correlatable to what comes in the newspaper. For that, you can just simply develop your awareness. Okay, there are so many ways of how you can branch out, go beyond what is there in the newspaper. Like, for example, if Russia, Ukraine is asked, you may think about what are the boundary nations of Ukraine, but I may start thinking on, okay, locations of the capitals of those boundary nations. Okay, which is the easternmost, which is the northernmost, which is the southernmost, right? Which capitals are on the banks of a particular river? You can think like that. So there is just n number of ways your thought can be triggered and it can be diversified so that you are able to be proactive in your preparation and not reactive. Okay, வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம், see, a lot of mistake that aspirants commonly do is they take previous year's questions, அதை சுத்தி சுத்தியே prepare பண்றது. Okay, you should understand that UPSC questions in GS, at least in your mains general studies, questions do not repeat. Okay, questions do not repeat in GS. Okay, and if it repeats, the theme may repeat, but the exact demand of the question may be little different. Okay, sir, article 21 is repeating. That is not what I mean by questions don't repeat. Article 21, is it about environment that is repeating, or is it about the rights and dignity of a person that is being asked? That is where the difference lies. You cannot simply depend on environmental question that was asked in 2021 in mains. The greatest success of judicial activism is the constitutionalization of environmental issues. அதுல இருந்து என்ன பண்றாங்க எல்லாருமே, now they are preparing on polluter pays principle, precautionary principle. இதெல்லாம் UPSC தேவையே கிடையாது, அந்த வருஷம் படிச்சிருக்கணும் அது. Okay, now this year a beautiful question was asked. Okay, that question was, I'll show you that question. So we'll look into all of that. So there's more to be discussed. But before that, I just want you to take a piece of paper. Okay, just one page, one paper, one sheet is enough. Okay, just attempt these questions. 5 objective questions alone, not more. All these 5 objective questions are from the latest news that has been happening around it. Okay. Okay. So these are the 5 questions. First question. You just mark A, B, C, D. I'll give you the answer. You evaluate it. You put your score next to that yourself. Okay. So just 5 questions. 5 minutes. Okay. Can we move to the next question? You have not marked. Have you marked? Can you move on? Easy. We'll move on. The first question means out of total members in Nagaland Assembly, if you take the total number of women members, that ratio is the highest in Nagaland. Okay. When you compare it similarly across states, if Nagaland has that highest ratio of women to total members in the legislative assembly or not, that's the statement. First statement. முடிஞ்சதா? I mean, the question முடிஞ்சதான்னு கேட்டேன். Okay. Next. Okay. Last question. Easy question. Immutability means you cannot change it. Okay. Oh, okay. Give the answers. What is the answer for this? Hmm? You're right. Only one is the right answer. Okay. I have known this. If you would have prepared on, I mean, if maybe I don't know how you have come to know about this doctrine, but at least in the recent current affairs, there's an issue going on with respect to sedition, right? What is that? Hate speech is different, sedition is different. Law Commission has submitted a report on a review of sedition laws. It has given a lot of recommendations, right? So in that context, a lot of discussions was happening. Okay, and now this law on sedition. What is the law on sedition? Section 124A of Indian Penal Code. Now that is under a constitutional examination by the Supreme Court, right? A petition has been filed in the Supreme Court asking the judges to have a review of the Supreme Court's earlier stand that it had taken long past. Okay, there was an earlier case. Are you aware of any case law on sedition? Anybody? Munawar Faruqi is not on sedition. Okay, anything else? Kedarnath, right? Kedarnath judgment is a landmark judgment covering how to approach sedition, right? That was given long by 50 years back. So now a petition has been filed in the Supreme Court that in the period of 50 years, a lot of jurisprudence has been developed by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court Pudusa due process doctrine has been brought in. The golden triangle of linkage between 14, 19, 21 has been brought in. In the light of all these changes that have happened in the last 50 years, a petition has been filed in the Supreme Court asking the Supreme Court to once again have a review of the Kedarnath judgment, right? So on the petition or reason, file reasons. One of the reasons is they say that the sedition law is not proportional to the offense, right? So the doctrine of proportionality had figured in the entire discussion centered around sedition, right? You'll be able to get it. Centers legislation and stateless matters, it is doctrine of colorable legislation is there. Doctrine of pith and substance can be used, but not doctrine of proportionality. And what is this doctrine? Severability, not eclipse. Okay. Second question. A lot of issues are going around with respect to Delhi services bill that was enacted, right? What is the answer for this? The question is not correct, no? The answer is C, correct. So good. You know about Balakrishnan committee and all? Okay, that's good. Okay. What is the answer? What is the answer? B. You said B, Bombay. Huh? Why Bombay? Why A is wrong? Northeastern states? Northeastern states are the worst performer when it comes to women representation. Ironically, okay, Nagaland, Mizoram, zero. Zero is the number of women. We tend to think that those are tribal areas, women empowerment is high and all that, correct? But because of the climate of political violence, which is there always, women are so reluctant to enter into politics. So that's why there are zero women in many of the northeastern states. But I want you to make that mistake of assuming that Northeast will have definitely more women representation. The guesswork, UPSC will work out. Okay, it's easy, no? Anybody with common sense, yeah, why would India not be a signatory? At least to show the credentials that we do take care of the interests of women. Correct? That can be found out. But first thing is wrong. Okay. Okay. What is the answer for this? D. D. The correct answer is A. Okay. This is something that I have just taken from the judgment of Supreme Court. In the, what is that? Supriyo Chakrabarti, right? Versus Union of India. In that case, the judges were asked a lot of questions to give answers for. Right? The first question they were asked was, is right to marry a fundamental right? And they have given a response to that. Okay. So their reasoning is that marriage as an institution was not conferred by the state. It was marriage predates state. If marriage predates state, then it is not within the power of state to confer this right on somebody else. And imagine if right of marriage is made as a fundamental right, if you don't get married, you go to the court and say, get me married now. Correct? Because it is enforceable now. Right? So can the court do? That's the same reason why MSP is not yet made a law. Right? If it is made as a law, it confers the right of having a minimum support price. What if every farmer in this country suddenly grows rice and everybody decides that I have to have MSP as my legal right? They all go to the court. Country's economy will just collapse, right? So that is the reason why some rights cannot be given. Impractical, correct? So this is actually taken from the judgment. So this is A. And let me see how many have got this right. Question 5. What is it? C. How many of you are going for D? D. A. Okay. The right answer is B, Bombay. Okay. So you can make your marks next to it. Okay, next to your answers. Okay. இந்த மாதிரி கொஸ்டின் கேட்டா எவ்வளவு மார்க் எடுத்தா வந்து ஐ எம் இந்த காம்படிஷன் சார் அப்படின்னு நீங்க கேட்டீங்கன்னா 3 or 4 marks you should have got it. Okay, 3 or 4. Okay, maybe one could have gone wrong, one could have been left out. The remaining 3 you should have got it right. If you have got it, you are in the race. Okay, if not, start developing that. Oh, இந்த மாதிரிலாம் போய் படிக்கணும் போல இருக்கு அப்படின்னு தெரிஞ்சுட்டு start doing it. Okay, now we look. Okay, let's have a look at my questions are directly modeled on the latest pattern of UPSC. After figuring out how UPSC has been asking questions for the last 2 years, right, around 14 to 17 questions are usually asked from polity, right, in the last 2-3 years trend. History also has a similar kind of equal weightage and all. But anyway, just have a look at previous years questions. Just want you to understand that you can get these answers right even without reading newspapers. Okay, that is also possible if you know how to branch out your ideas. Otherwise, depend on newspaper. But I just want you to understand that அப்படியே newspaper இருந்து டைரக்டா எடுத்து எந்த கொஸ்டினுமே கேட்க மாட்டாங்க அப்படிங்கறத மட்டும் புரிஞ்சுக்கணும். Right? So, you see, what is due process of law? Correct? This comes today in the hindsight when you look at the paper. Some of you might have already analyzed this question paper. Some of you might be already solving it from question bank and all that. Today, it might all appear to be easy. Correct? But on the day of the examination, from the responses that we have got from a lot of very well-performing aspirants, maximum people were able to get around 60 to 70% of the marks correct in polity. Okay, and this is one such question as well. Okay, due process of law. The answer is very clear: fair application of law. But on the exam day of exam, these two were very conflicting. Is it principle of natural justice or is it fair application of law? So you don't actually have to read current affairs, but reading current affairs also could have indirectly taken you to this direction. Please listen how. Okay, you know, due process doctrine came into existence since the days of which judgment? Menaka Gandhi judgment. Correct? Menaka Gandhi na in the article 21. So anytime in the newspaper you come across article 21, you should be able to, from there you should go and read more about judicial activism and how activism has widened the scope of article 21. When you start developing that understanding, you will come to this idea that there was a reason why it all happened. Why it happened was the constitutional principle of procedure established by law was very inadequate for Supreme Court to render justice. Okay, it was found not workable after 20 years of constitution put into practice. When we first got independence and constitution came into existence, procedure established by law was sufficient enough. But with time, that was insufficient. So the Indian judiciary had to look for some other ways of giving justice. So it looked at US. In US, they have developed a very good doctrine of due process of law. Right? So either from the classes you could have learned this idea, or from case laws that come in the newspaper about article 21, from there going back, reading entirely about the issue, you could have come across this concept of due process of law. Right? Newspaper would not have given you the answer for this. In Hindu law article, due process of law means fair application of law. Correct? But you can use some news, branch out and have a look at it. This could be a current affairs question, but let me tell you, most of the people who attempted this question have all gone wrong. It's not very simple. It's not easy to correlate. இதுவும் கரெக்ட்னு தெரியும், இதுவும் கரெக்ட்னு தெரியும். Okay, but இதுதான் இதுக்கு ரீசனா அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து it's very difficult to determine on the day of the examination. Okay, even now also we are under conflict. Can we really say this is the reason, or can we say something else is the reason? Right? So that is also there. So current affairs வந்து வர்றது வந்து you cannot completely depend upon that whatever current affairs comes, I'll definitely get everything right. you are going to be educated based on current affairs. அதிலிருந்து ஏதாவது யூஸ் எடுத்து எக்ஸாம் யூஸ் பண்ண முடியுமா? Right? That's the logic behind prepare for current affairs and all. Okay, so but let me tell you, these are some simple questions. If you understand the first basic idea of constitutionalism, why is constitution required for a country? Some 6 or 7 objectives of constitution. You'll be able to write that the first work is protect the citizen from the state. Because citizen is the most powerful, powerless entity. State is powerful. So the state can predate, it can affect the liberties, rights of citizens. So that is why you have to prevent. Idella on easy questions. See, always if there are 16 questions, no, 5-6 questions are so simple. Anybody with a decent exposure to soldiers preparation will get 5-6 questions. But those 5-6 are useless because everybody else is also going to get it right. Correct? மற்றவங்க எல்லாம் தப்பு பண்ற இடத்துல ஏதாவது ஒன்று ரெண்டு நமக்கு ஏதாவது ஒரு மார்ஜினல் பெனிஃபிட் இஃப் யூ கீப் கெட்டிங் அக்ராஸ் சப்ஜெக்ட்ஸ். ஸோ தட் வில் come out to around 10 to 15 questions. See, with prelims, no, the game is you have to play a very defensive game. எல்லாரும் கரெக்டா வாங்குற இடத்துல நம்மளும் கரெக்டா வாங்கிடணும். ஓகே, அங்க தப்பே வாங்க கூடாது. அப்படின்னு என்னன்னா, anything that comes from your standard books, anything that comes from your NCRTs, there is no way you can afford to be weak in those areas. Okay, அதெல்லாம் ஸ்ட்ராங்கா இருக்கணும். Plus, you should know something like these things, like due process of law, getting it right. Correct? அதெல்லாம் கரெக்டா வந்துச்சுன்னா you'll be able to manage it. Right? So the point, and look at this, which of the following constitutional amendments was widely believed to be enacted to overcome the judicial interpretations of fundamental rights? Okay, there are 4 statements here. Right? Most students went for 42nd Amendment Act. Okay, which is wrong. So idella enna solla varana, one is you need to have very good clarity about the underlying concepts. Second is more branching out should have had happened so as to have prepared on related areas. Idu rendum pannumna you can get around 60 to 70% of the marks in your exams intact, right? So I'll just show you maybe some 5-6 themes we'll discuss today, right? 5-6 themes which are prominently in news in the last few months. Let's just take one by one, have some discussion centered around that so that you understand oh இந்த மாதிரிலாம் கூட points எடுத்து வைக்கலாம் அப்படிங்கிறது, right? So we'll start with and look at, okay, this is a question. 2 questions were asked from topic related to Indian president. Okay, this is a question where you have answers simply from Lakshmikant. Most people would have got it right. Okay, Indian president has been handled for you, right? His election method, all that. Okay, election, his powers, disputes regarding presidential. Tharanja, you could have got the 6th question right. But then there was another question asked about president, and people expected question of president will be asked. Why? Because last year was presidential elections, right? But nobody could have got this answer, right? I'll show you what is that question. Look at this. Consider the following statements with respect to elections to the office of President of India. Value vote for each vote of each MLA of Madhya Pradesh is greater than that of Kerala. How will you know that? So UPSC is having this so as to make you understand this. I should not attempt, better leave it and go. Okay, if you would not have attempted the previous question on president, no, உங்க மைண்ட் இந்த இடத்துக்கு வரும்போது என்ன ஆகும்னா தப்பா யோசிக்கும். தெரியாட்டி என்ன ரெண்டு இருக்குல ஒன்னு அட்டன் பண்ணுவோம், அந்த மாதிரி தப்பு பண்ணக்கூடாது, ரைட்? ஸோ தட் இஸ் வை யூ ஹேவ் டு பி ஸ்ட்ராங் இன் த ப்ரீவியஸ் ஏரியா ஸோ தட் யூ கேன் அவாய்ட் அட்டெம்ப்டிங் அ கொஸ்டின் இன் திஸ் ஏரியா. யூ கேன் சே தட் தீஸ் ஆர் த கைண்ட் ஆஃப் கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸ், நோ மேட்டர் வாட் யூ ப்ரிப்பேர், யூ கேன் ஆக்சுவலி you cannot attempt it at all, but you should not be worried about this. Okay, you should be worried about more about building not the factual knowledge but building the conceptual clarity on areas related to your current affairs. Okay, so what am I trying to point out to you? No matter what you read from newspapers, some kind of questions are impossible to attempt, but that should not be a justification for you to not spend more time on newspapers. So எவ்வளவு அட்டெண்ட் பண்ணாலும் வேஸ்ட் தான், எதுக்கு படிச்சுக்கிட்டு தான், படிச்சாதான் philosophical questions can be attempted. Okay, so I'll just tell you how it is, how it works. For example, do you know that this is the 50th year of Keshavananda Bharati case, right? 50th, called as basic structure doctrine, came into existence, right? Then I have asked this question, yes or no? This question, this 5th question was only asked based on that, right? So tell me, in which of the case the Supreme Court had declared that fundamental rights cannot be altered? Yes, Golaknath, you know that. So which year was Golaknath judgment? 67, right? 67. When, which year is First Amendment Act? 51, no relationship. Which year is 42nd Amendment Act? Indira Gandhi, 76. 67 எங்க 76 எங்க? அப்ப கண்டிப்பா நடுவுல ஏதோ ஒண்ணு தான் நடந்திருக்கும், ரைட்? அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு லாஜிக் இருந்தா கூட you can have got this. 24th Amendment Act. But the point is, you should have known that Golaknath case was the case in which Supreme Court decided that fundamental rights cannot be tampered with. Right? And the logic. Okay. Similarly, please excuse me. Yeah. Why are you talking? Sorry? ஒன்றும் பண்ண வேண்டாம், வெளியில போய் பண்ணிக்கலாம். So, how many of you are very clear about basic structure doctrine, its evolution and all that? Okay, so tell me, which Constitutional Amendment Act had expanded the scope of exemptions, okay, that are available to give effect to DPSPs? Yes, what is it? 42nd. Okay, which, you're right. So which amendment had brought in a provision to allow laws that give effect to DPSPs to be exempted even if they violate fundamental rights? Very good. This clarity, if you have, it's good. So others have to develop that clarity. Okay, I'll just give you a broad gist of what is this. Okay, so that you learn something from the discussion. Okay, why others are not able to answer this? You also sat along with the same people, no? Or you are going for some special classes? No? Recollection, linkages. Probably that comes when after the class you would have gone, looked at previous year's questions, ஏதாவது டெஸ்ட் எடுத்து சால்வ் பண்ணி பார்க்கறது, அதெல்லாம் பண்ணோம்னா வந்துரும். Okay, so basic structure doctrine. Okay, that is in news. 50th year of Keshavananda Bharati case, a very landmark case in completely changing our understanding of the power of Parliament to make amendments to the Constitution. Correct? So when did it all start? Okay, I'll just discuss some 5 different themes today. Okay, all 5 recently news. One is basic structure doctrine. Second one is Delhi services bill. Third is right to marry. Okay, and fourth can be about the women's reservation bill. Okay, and fifth is about Rahul Gandhi's disqualification, defamation, sedition, hate speech, all those areas. Right. So let's have that to be discussed in the next 2 hours of our time. Okay, so we'll start with the first topic. First topic is 50th year of Keshavananda Bharati case. Okay, so if you choose to write, you can write, or I'll just listen. Okay, see, since the days of Karachi resolution of Congress, okay, what is Karachi resolution famous for? Sorry, fundamental rights. Okay, yeah, fundamental rights. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி Nehru report itself had brought in the idea of fundamental rights, certain basic rights which are inalienable to human beings. Karachi resolution is even more specific for what we call today as directive principles. Okay, but in Karachi resolution of Congress in 31, this differentiation between part 3 and part 4 rights was actually not made. That was a later insertion in the constitution when the constitution was being made. Okay, in Karachi resolution 1931, our founding, the freedom struggle leaders, all that they wanted was some rights which are also having a socio-economic character to it, right? And you can trace the demand for Karachi resolution 1931 happened because in 1930s, late 20s and beginning of 30s, the communist and left influence was felt very profound in the Indian National Congress, right? The Communist Congress Socialist Party was formed, and communist movement was getting traction up in Russia. So a lot of socialist influence was there. No wonder in Karachi resolution in 1931, in Karachi, when the annual session of Congress took place, Congress party had resolved that the state should provide a certain set of rights which are essential for their socio-economic upliftment. For example, there should be fixed hours of work. There should be equal work, pay for equal work done by men and women. In the Mari rights, these are what today are placed under part 4 of the Constitution, which are made non-justiciable in courts of law, right? But in the change can be traced back to 1930s. Okay, so in the same period, Government of India Act 1935 came into existence. Because of Government of India Act 1935, real power is going to be transferred in the hands of Indians. Where? In provinces, right? In provinces, the system of diarchy was to be scrapped. Diarchy was to be experimented in center. Now in the provinces, we move on to the next level of autonomy. First level of autonomy is in 1919, where diarchy was handed over. The next level of autonomy is giving complete autonomy in the hands of Indian ministers to rule over subjects. right? So that is why diarchy was abolished in Government of India Act 1935, where I hope you know what is diarchy and all that, right? Diarchy na rendu ministers irupanga illaya. British ministers will be there, Indian ministers will also be there, and Indian ministers alone will be responsible to the legislature. Britishers will not be responsible to the legislature. இது வந்து first level of experimentation, whether Indians are capable of running a responsible government or not. And if Indians are found to be capable, we will give more power in the hands of Indians. And a body was appointed to see if Indians were successful in running their administration or not. What is that body? Simon Commission. It gave its recommendations. It felt that yes, Indians are sufficiently capable enough. That is why the next series of reforms was brought in so as to completely transfer power in the hands of Indians so that they can run their administration their own. But that's to be experimented only in the provinces, right? So provinces now, there's a hope because of 1935 Act. Okay, Indians, nammale vande we can run the administration, correct? So there are multiple contenders. You had Muslim League, you had Indian National Congress, you had Justice Party. All of them were competing with each other somehow to win people's votes, right? And how can you win people's votes? By promising them something, right? So that is why Congress Party promised, if only we win elections and we come to power, the first thing that we'll do is we'll abolish the zamindari system. We'll redistribute lands. Why? Because the zamindari system, which was a very satisfying and assured way of revenue collection for the Britishers, it had its unintended consequence of making land a very transferable commodity. You know that? Before Britishers, land was simply heritable commodity. It was not a transferable commodity. What I mean by that is, before Britishers, I can pass my land to my successors. I cannot sell anything because all land belonged to the king, right? But after Britishers came, the zamindari system, by conferring rights of revenue collection, by conferring some kind of right over a piece of land, what happened is some people got record of rights in their name, and if they are not able to pay the revenue to the Britishers, that land will be auctioned off to the highest bidder, because of which land kept on changing hands. Finally, all land suddenly, after this, imagine this continuing for 150, 200 years, finally almost every land in India was concentrated in a few hands of few zamindars. The rest of the people were all landless, correct? So in 1930s itself, when Congress contested elections under the Government of India 1935, the Congress had made an electoral promise: if we were to come to power, we will ensure zamindar system is abolished, land redistribution happens, all this insecurity associated with tenure arrangements is all done away with, everybody has something to own at the end of the day. இதெல்லாம் சொன்னாங்க. But நிறைவேற்ற முடிஞ்சதா அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it was a failure. Why? One is because Congress ministries ruled for a very short span of time, only up until the outbreak of the Second World War, right? So 37 to 39 was the period in which they occupied power. And even in that time, the Britishers were very clever. When they gave complete power to administer in the hands of Indians in the provinces, they also created a parallel institution called as the second chambers in the states, right? Madras, a second chamber was created. இன்னைக்கு இல்ல நமக்கு ஒரே ஒரு ஹவுஸ் தான், legislative assembly. But back then we had legislative council as well. What is the origin for the legislative council? 1935 Government of India 1935 Act. எது கிரியேட் பண்ணாங்க? அந்த செகண்ட் சேம்பர் வந்து மெட்ராஸ்ல United Provinces. What is United Provinces? UP. Central Provinces? MP. Right? Bihar, Bengal, Bombay. All these places were, their provinces were created with second chamber. And who are the members of second chamber? Landlords, princes, zamindars. இவங்களா குறைச்சிக்கலாம். So imagine, if at all Congress now brings in a land legislation to abolish zamindari system, do you think it will be passed by the second house? It will not be. So that's why the Congress had limited success in getting its electoral promise fulfilled in the 1930s. So they were waiting for an opportunity to fulfill their electoral promise. And the first opportunity came when the Indians made a constitution for themselves, right? So, and not only that, in the 1950s, it was decided that only 6% of the Indian population were literate, educated. The remaining people were all uneducated. Uneducated இருக்கிறவங்களை கொண்டு வந்து, can you make them work as chip designers? Without any education, can they be made as machine tool operators? So they cannot be employed either in service sector or in manufacturing sector. So the bulk of the Indians have to be employed only in agricultural sector. So 95% of the Indian population, they are engaged in agricultural activity. இப்போ அவங்களோட வாழ்வாதாரத்தெல்லாம் முன்னேற்றணும்னா எந்த செக்டர் ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணுவோம்? Agriculture, correct? So that is why in the first 5 years planning and all, agriculture was given too much of importance. Not only that, so if you imagine, how can you increase their economic capacity, economic power of all these people dependent on agriculture? எப்படி பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்னா, by giving them security of tenure. Okay, I'll explain to you in simple words. See, I am the only person who's having all the land. Okay, you're all working as tenant farmers in my land, right? What does it mean? If I don't like you, tomorrow I'll chase you out of the land. Correct? இப்படி இருக்கும்போது, do you think you will go for long-term crops? No. So what will you do? You'll go for the shortest possible crop. Okay. எப்போ வேணாலும் துரத்திடுவார் அப்படிங்கிறதுனால திருப்பி you will be cultivating rice or you'll cultivate onions, which is of low value. But imagine if you have a security of tenure, 10 வருஷம் உங்களை அசைக்க முடியாது அப்படின்னு இருந்துச்சுன்னா, next what you'll do is you'll think, okay, 10 வருஷம் tea could cultivation. Tea could means 1 acre if I cultivate for 10 to 15 years, I can probably get 1 crore rupees. Whereas rice திருப்பி போட்டிருந்தா கூட 1 லட்சம் தாண்டாது. Correct? So you start thinking of high value crops. Correct? You start thinking of drip irrigation investments to be done. Don't you think that is how productivity can be increased? Right? For that, the first requirement is ownership should be conferred in your hands. Correct? But the problem is zamindari system. Right? So excess land is in the hands of one person, others are landless. So that is why it was decided we will put an end to the zamindari system. How? By fixing land ceiling limits. Okay, a family should not own more than so and so percentage of so and so many acres of land. That changes from state to state because over state land fertility changes. Okay, you cannot say தஞ்சாவூர்ல 10 ஏக்கர் மேல வச்சுக்கூடாதுங்கிறது லாஜிக். ராஜஸ்தான்ல 10 ஏக்கர் வச்சுக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லக்கூடாது. Correct? You should say, give more limits there, 100 acres. Because what is capable of being produced in 10 acres in Tanjavur can only be produced in 100 acres. So that is why land, because of its variations, land was first of all placed under state list. We cannot have one central law. That's why land was placed as a subject matter of state list because of innumerable variations of categories of land. Okay, so it is the state legislatures who have the competence to make laws abolishing land zamindari system. Can you get the point? Center cannot make zamindari abolition laws. The only reason being that land is a matter of state list. So that is why all state legislatures, they came up with their own laws abolishing zamindari system and all the excess land being transferred in the hands of landless laborers. Okay, but immediately as soon as it happened, this was a contentious matter of litigation which flooded all the high courts across the country. Okay, Madras Tenancy Reforms Act, Odisha Land Reforms Act, West Bengal Zamindari Abolition Act. இந்த மாதிரி ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்டேட்டும் they made their own abolition acts. As soon as these acts came into picture, they were all challenged in their respective high courts as unconstitutional. Why? Because right to property existed and these laws were found to be violative of the fundamental right of property. Correct? So now what is going to be the fate of all these land laws? They are all about to be struck down as unconstitutional. That is why Parliament wanted to safeguard it. Oh, fundamental right ஒன்று இருக்கிற போய் தானே வந்து you are challenging it. I will add a exempted group of provisions. Right? That is why the first amendment was brought to the Constitution. Okay, can someone tell me the other utility of the first Constitutional Amendment Act? This is one, to immunize land laws from being invalidated by the court. Where? Reservation. Yeah. And what was the case law related to reservations? Champakam Dorairajan. Right? Champakam Dorairajan case. Later. Yeah, that is also related, but later. So the reason for First Amendment Act was the verdict of the court in Champakam Dorairajan case. Okay, and what is the ground in which Champakam Dorairajan questioned the validity of Madras GO, which provided reservation for OBCs? Okay, there was a ground on which he challenged that this GO is invalid. What is the ground? Anybody? It gave effect to DPSP, so that cannot be a ground of challenge. Correct. 29. Cultural and educational rights. Correct. Article 29 speaks about cultural and education. 29 and 30. So 29 clause 1. Okay, talks about no person shall be denied admission in any educational institution on the ground only of race, religion, caste, sex, and moral. So Champakam Dorairajan goes and questions this Madras GO, which is allowing OBC reservation. It is preventing me from entering into medical colleges on grounds of caste. And the court said that yes, it is invalid. So that is why, to invalidate the court's judgment, the First Amendment Act was brought in, which protected such reservations based on caste from being invalidated by the court. So it is all a part of the First Amendment Act. Anyway, so there are some landmark amendments which you should actually have a very fair idea about. Any other utility of First Amendment Act? It added a few grounds on which freedom of speech and expression can be restricted under Article 19. Right? The ground of public order, it was actually added as a result of the First Amendment Act, right? The Silla Amendment Act, you should have a very fair idea about its broad provisions. Okay, so yeah, First Amendment Act was brought in. The First Amendment Act brought in some new articles which granted immunity for laws that are aimed at land reforms. What are those articles? 30? 31A, 31B, right? 31A and 31B, two new articles were inserted as a result of first Constitutional Amendment Act. அது என்னங்க சார் first 31A and 31B அப்படின்னா 31A says that if a law has been made by the legislatures for the purpose of land reforms, even if it violates fundamental rights, it cannot be invalidated. Okay, so if large estates are being acquired, in that case, even if it violates the fundamental right of property, that's challenging. Everybody is feeling that you are acquiring my large estate, but it is affecting my fundamental right of property. Correct? So it is giving that kind of a protection in the form of Article 31A. And 31B has inserted a new schedule to the Constitution, which is called as a ninth schedule. Right? Ninth schedule is a list of laws which would enjoy this protection of being invalidated by the court. So First Amendment introduces 31A, 31B. Right? Now a person is aggrieved. How can Parliament do this injustice to me? Right? Who's he? Shankar Prasad. Right? Shankar Prasad. Excuse me. Come here. Why are you leaving? Ilan theriyuma? Oh, இந்த தேவையில்லாத ஆட்டிடியூட்ல எதுக்கு? Sit down, sit down, sit down. Either you should not have come to the class, or if you come, at least you should be able to answer all the 5 questions. Okay, you can leave, no problem. பரவாயில்லப்பா, போங்க போங்க. You may have some work. Carry on, carry on. Okay. So, yeah, 31A, 31B were introduced. Immediately, Shankar Prasad is now aggrieved. Right? Shankar Prasad goes to the court. Which court? Supreme Court. He goes to Supreme Court. He challenges the validity of First Amendment Act. Can anyone tell me what are the questions posed to the court in Shankar Prasad's case? What questions were asked to the justice? Sorry? You're right. You're partly right. Correct? Anybody, what is the question asked to the Supreme Court judges? It was asked, does the Parliament have the power to amend fundamental rights? Number 1. Right? The Parliament மட்டும் நினைச்சா என்னால அமெண்ட் பண்ணலாமா அப்படிங்கிறது. Correct? Second question that was asked was, will constitutional amendments that are enacted under Article 368, do they fit under the definition of laws for the purpose of Article 13? Correct? Why? Article 13 says any law that violates fundamental right can be declared null and void. அப்ப constitutional amendments இந்த லாங்கிற டெஃபினிஷன் கடையில் கொண்டு வர முடியுமா? கொண்டு வந்தோம்னா constitutional amendment வந்து can be struck down as null and void. Correct? These are the 2 questions posed to the judges. Right? And what was the reply of the judges? First question, can Parliament amend fundamental rights? The Supreme Court says, yes. After all, have we not modeled our Indian system based on the British parliamentary model? And in British parliamentary system, is the Parliament not sovereign? Can the Parliament not do anything and everything except change a man into women and women into man? அவ்வளோ பவர்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும் போது, so why not we can also do that. There are no limitations put in the Constitution on the power of Parliament, so Parliament can very well make amendments to even fundamental rights. Second question, right? When can laws come under the category of, can constitutional amendments come under the category of laws? The court says no. Constitutional amendments are different, laws are different. After all, don't we follow a completely different procedure? Right? Overwhelming majority votes for Article 368 amendments, whereas the laws are simply passed by a simple majority in the Parliament. So when different procedures are followed, there is a clear differentiation between constitutional amendments under Article 368 and laws which are ordinarily passed. So constitutional amendments are not laws. So it means that constitutional amendments, even if it violates fundamental rights, cannot be declared to be invalid. So basically what Supreme Court has done here is, Supreme Court has judged that state action to give effect to DPSPs occupies a greater importance than an individual's right of protection under fundamental rights. So the court is indirectly placing directive principles at a higher pedestal than fundamental rights. Correct? Yes. So the balance has shifted towards part 3 than part 4. Sorry. Part 4 than part 3. As if directive principles are more important than fundamental rights. Correct? So state is very happy. Okay, court is சொல்லிட்டாங்க, we can make land acquisition laws. They started acquiring all laws, lands of zamindars. They started redistributing it. Okay, and then again, what other amendment is related to? Speak in the chronological order. No, First Amendment Act linked to basic structure doctrine. Anything else that is linked to basic structure doctrine? What is that? Next amendment. What's the next important amendment linked to basic structure doctrine? Sorry, what is it? 17th. Correct. 17th Amendment Act. What did it do? 17th Amendment Act expanded the scope of Article 31A exemptions. Okay, what 17th Amendment Act did was Article 31A only allowed large estates to be acquired, and that cannot be challenged in a court of law. But what 17th Amendment did was not only large estates, even lands held under personal cultivation. சின்ன சின்ன land இருந்தா கூட state can now start acquiring. It is overpowering the state. It's giving more powers in the hands of the state, right? So this was one other change that was brought in 64, I think, 17th Amendment Act, which expanded the power of land acquisition in the hands of the state. So this just went on and on. And in 67, Punjab government made an act which is about, again, placing restrictions on the maximum ceiling limits. Okay, Punjab Land Tenure Act was passed, which was affecting the interest of two brothers, William and Henry Golaknath. Right, two brothers were affected because they were into holding large pieces of land, and because of this act passed by Punjab legislature, now their excess land beyond the ceiling limits is going to be taken away. So that is why once again the Supreme Court is confronted with the case Golaknath versus State of Punjab. So Golaknath, they are brothers, they are going and challenging the action of the Punjab Act, okay, in the Supreme Court, Golaknath's case. So a higher bench of judges had sat, constitutional bench was formed. Same questions were posed before the judges. Same questions of Shankari Prasad again asked. What are those questions? Can Parliament amend fundamental rights? Do amendments come under the category of laws? Now the court is reversing its earlier judgment, completely opposite, right? And the court uses some good logic behind it. So the court says, can Parliament amend fundamental rights? You know what the court says for that? Yes, what is it? Of course, it says no, but what is the reasoning behind it? Sorry? Sorry? What is it? What it says is, it shows Article 368. Okay, court shows Article 360. If you read the text of Article 360 today in the Constitution, do you know what is the heading of Article 360? Power of the Parliament to amend the Constitution and procedure thereof. But when this case happened, that was not the heading. The heading was procedure to amend the Constitution. Okay, the word power was not there. So the court said that, see, constitution makers have only prescribed a procedure. They have not given a power in the hands of Parliament to make any amendments. So it means that you do not have a sweeping power to amend anything and everything. What you can amend, what you cannot amend, we will tell you. And the Supreme Court is saying in Golaknath's case, you cannot amend fundamental rights. There is something so basic an ingredient about fundamental rights that it cannot at all be amended. Okay. Idoda seed enga irukku pathina, there is another case called Sajjan Singh, which is state of Rajasthan. There a minor judge, okay, Justice Mudolkar in the case la. So he puts a thought that there is something basic about fundamental rights that it cannot even be amended. It's another judgment altogether. That philosophy was taken up by the judges in Golaknath's case, and they expanded on that, and they now come with a conclusive judgment saying that fundamental rights cannot at all be altered. Right? So this is like a complete death blow to the government's intentions of making amendments to fundamental rights. Correct? Second, do amendments fit under the category of laws for the purpose of Article 13? The court says, yes, adu law. And you know what does the logic court says? The court says, look at America. If you want to amend the constitution, a separate constituent assembly is formed for that purpose. Correct? அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு மேண்டேட்ல ஒரு பாடியை அமைச்சு அந்த பாடி வந்து if it is making changes to the constitution, I can accept that whatever the body creates is final. But are we following the same process in India? After all, the same lawmaking body, a legislative body, is sitting in its constituent capacity and it's making changes to the constitution. So it's not a separate body as such, it's the same lawmaking body. So that is why constitution amendments will also fall under the definition of laws. Constitution amendments can also be declared as invalid, right? So the state action, but the court said that my judgment, this judgment will have only prospective value, prospective effect. இனிமே எதுவும் பண்ண முடியாது. So இனிமே வந்து you cannot acquire land and all that. But whatever has already been acquired is held to be valid, because that cannot be reversed back, because people have got ownership, they have built houses, they started doing agriculture. இப்போ வந்து எல்லாத்தையும் வந்து reverse பண்ணி திருப்பி give it back to zamindars. Can you do that? It will end up having a civil war in this country, right? So that is why the effect of Golaknath judgment had a prospective nature. Okay, so now Parliament is angry. How can you prevent us? We have a great socialist agenda to fulfill. Preamble talks about India being, okay, that is a later addition, but that was a period where Indira Gandhi was coming under the influence of socialism, right? Congress itself was broken into two. Indira Gandhi did not find voices of support within Congress. So she had to look for support from outside parties. And communists were willing to give her support. So Indira Gandhi was getting a left tilt in that period. Right. So that is why socialism was found to be very important at that period of time. But what is the court doing? The court is saying that you cannot amend fundamental rights. So it is putting a full stop for socialism. Why would Parliament want to amend fundamental rights? To give effect to DPSPs. And what are DPSPs? Socialist principles, prevention of concentration of wealth, ensuring everybody has access to resources for production. So, correct? So state action is directed at giving effect to socialist DPSPs, whereas fundamental rights are coming in the way of that as an obstacle. So the state is now helpless. The judgment of Supreme Court in Golaknath's case is preventing the state from acquiring a socialist character. That is why Indira Gandhi immediately came up with the constitutional amendment itself so as to nullify the impact of Golaknath judgment. That is what is 24th as well as 25th Amendment Act. Okay. So, see, I don't have to talk about all this. We could have just gone to the next topic, right? So, 24th Amendment Act, what was the insertion done in the Constitution? 24th. So, court enna sonanga, you don't have the power to amend. Article 360 amend pannilla. You add a new word, power and the procedure. See, now we have the power. Correct. That's how Parliament responds back. Whenever Supreme Court, by its judicial wisdom, imposes some restrictions, immediately Parliament responds back. For example, now Supreme Court has created a collegium system for selection of election commissioners. Correct. Was it not met with a parliamentary reaction immediately? Parliament came up with an act for the purpose. Nee enna collegium nu solra. Unoda judgment I'll make it as nothing by coming up with the act. Right. So that is the nature of Parliament to respond back. Right. So similarly, when judiciary spoke in Golaknath judgment, Parliament responds back by coming up with 24th and 25th Amendment Act. So what is 24th Amendment Act? 24th Amendment Act creates a change to the heading of Article 368. It confers the powers that were found to be missing in the judgment of Golaknath. Those powers of amendment were conferred in the hands of Parliament. Number one. The second impact is of 24th judgment is it inserted a new constitutional provision, which is Article 31C of the Constitution. Okay, what is that article? Sorry, that is no. It inserted a new article called Article 13, Clause 4 to the Constitution. 13, Clause 4, what is that? Golaknath enna sonnanga? Constitution amendments are also laws. Even enna solranga? Laws are different, constitution amendments are different. That is the meaning of that. Nothing in this Article 13 shall apply to constitutional amendments carried out under Article 368. If Parliament makes a constitutional amendment under Article 368, that cannot be invalidated as an ordinary law gets invalidated. So they are protecting constitutional amendments. It's just a reversal of what the Golaknath judgment had put forward. Right? That is 24th Amendment Act. Another Amendment Act, 25th Amendment Act, was also brought in the same year of 1971. What is that? That is expanding the scope of exemptions. Creation of a new Article 31C. Right? Already 31A, 31B has been inserted. Now a new article is being inserted. What is the new article? Yeah. Any law that gives effect to DPSPs under 39B and 39C of the Constitution. Right? If a law is trying to give effect to DPSP under 39B and 39C, what is 39B, 39C? Socialist DPSPs. 39B talks about prevention of concentration of wealth. 39C talks about redistribution of resources for common good and all that. Right? So can you understand this? 39B, 39C. Other implement pandra mari laws without the parliament or state legislature or pannanga abdina, even if it violates fundamental rights, that will be never be questioned in a court of law. Right? This is Article 31C. A law to give effect to DPSPs under 39B and 39C will never be called into question before any court of law on grounds that it violates fundamental rights under Part 3. Can you understand? Yes. Can you understand how much the Parliament has extended its scope of lawmaking? Correct? This panna odane Indira Gandhi, after this, she decided to dissolve the government. She knew clearly that people will support her. Okay. And moreover, she was having a difficult time dealing with judiciary. In the years of Golaknath, the 17 the time, Indira Gandhi was facing a big headache. Whatever law she brings in, judiciary will invalidate it. Right? Bank nationalization. Indira Gandhi felt it that is an urgent need for development of this country. See, at that time, today's Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank, Punjab National Bank, these are erstwhile private sector banks. People were holding it in the private capacity, owning it. Correct? All that was nationalized. Right? Bank nationalization ordinance was first brought in 69. Right? Why did Indira Gandhi wanted to nationalize these banks? So as to make sure credit is available also to the poorest of the poor of this country. Because இவங்களே வந்து ரன் பண்றதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா loans will be given at 40% interest rate and it will be given only to closed circles, capitalists இவங்களுக்கே கொடுத்துட்டு இருக்கும். So the poor people are not having access to credit. That is the reason why Indira Gandhi wanted to nationalize the bank and wanted to impose conditions of priority sector lending. Okay, poor people, percentage of loans must be given for so and so purposes, right? So that is why nationalization was done. Again, that was challenged in a court, R.C. Cooper case, right? You would have learned that in the context of checks and balances and ordinance making powers, right? But that case was actually a case on challenge to bank nationalization ordinance. The Supreme Court struck it down. Okay, bank nationalization was struck down. You know, there's a concept called privy purses. Privy purses. The royals were princely states were persuaded to join the Indian Union on the promise that a lump sum royalty annual pension will be paid to them. Correct? That is what is a constitutional provision of privy purse. That was abolished during Indira Gandhi's time. That was again challenged in the court. Court nullified the action of Indira Gandhi. So whatever Indira Gandhi wanted to do to reach out to people to make her standing popular, court was standing in the way of it. And Golaknath judgment was also similar to that. That is why Indira Gandhi felt I cannot tolerate this judiciary. So she brought in this amendment. She asked the president to to dissolve the house. She faced the people directly, put forward an agenda to the people directly. That was the time when congressmen went around speaking to the people, saying that we needed a committed judiciary. The judges who occupy the positions of power in High Court and Supreme Court must also share the same socialist belief as that of the politicians. Correct? This question I think in 20 or 21. Okay, what is the impact of committed judiciary? Right? Do you know that? In 2021, I think there was a question asked. Okay, what is the impact of committed judiciary in prelims? 4 options were given. Okay, so as soon as people saw the first word committed judiciary, people, aspirants assumed that, wow, nalla work panda judiciary committed judiciary. Actually, committed judiciary means not that. Some judiciary that is allied with the philosophy of a ruling political party. Correct? So 4 option irukum. First option some option was given fast disposal of cases. But the last option is dilution of separation of powers. Correct? So what is the logical option? You should have gone for the last option. Correct? But people assume, they gave their own meaning to the word committed judiciary. Correct? இதெல்லாம் வந்து சார் லட்சுமிகாந்த் எங்கேயுமே இல்லை அப்படின்னா, yes, that is what UPSC will do. Why would UPSC want to ask every question only from Lakshmikant? So this, you could have got to understand about this terminology of committed judiciary in 2 ways. Either if you would have had public administration is an option. In that way, you could have come across a term called committed bureaucracy. Committed bureaucracy. And the word வந்து உங்களுக்கு கிளாஸ்ல வந்திருக்கும். கரெக்டா? அதை வச்சு கூட இங்க எழுதிடலாம். What is committed bureaucracy? What exists in USA, right? Where all government employees have to subscribe to the party ideology. Democratic ideology you should subscribe to. But India, that is not the case. We have an independent and neutral bureaucracy. So அப்படி படிச்சிருந்தோம்னா அந்த क्वेश्चन கரெக்ட் வாங்கியிருக்கலாம். அப்படி இல்லையா, during basic structure preparation, you should have learned about all this history of things that have happened. In that case also, you could have come across the word committed judiciary. You could have got it right. Okay. So anyway, so that was a time when open speeches were made regarding the necessity of judiciary to be oriented towards the party in power. All that was also happening. Okay, so she faced the people. She said that it's judiciary which is preventing me from making pro-people policies. Okay, you show to the judiciary that you support me. Okay, the highest support to Indian National Congress was got in that particular election. People overwhelmingly gave a mandate to Indira Gandhi, displaying it to judiciary that we reject your interference with the government. Correct? And it is in this changed environment, it is in this environment where the judiciary was sent a message that do not interfere with people. It is in that environment, now judiciary was faced the next challenge, which is Keshavananda Bharati case. Okay? In Keshavananda Bharati case, it was a state of Kerala. Right? What happened? Same, Keshavananda Bharati's land was taken out. Keshavananda Bharati is the religious authority of a religious institution in Kerala. Right? காஞ்சி சங்கராச்சாரியா மாதிரி அவரும் வந்து அவர் ஒரு ஆர்கனைசேஷன் நடத்திட்டு வந்திருக்கு. ரைட்? ஸோ கேரளா கவர்மெண்ட், கம்யூனிஸ்ட் கவர்மெண்ட், இட்ஸ் பாப்புலர் perception, no? Communist government means it's against religion. It is too much interfering into matters of religion and all that. Right? So Kerala government passed a law which stripped the excess land that religious institutions had. Okay. இனிமே வந்து சங்கராச்சாரியர் மடம் இந்த மாதிரிலாம் சொல்லிட்டுலாம் வந்து 1000 ஏக்கர் வச்சுக்கிறதுலாம் கூடாது. Whatever excess land you have, you return it back to the state. Correct? Because of which Keshavananda Bharati lost his land. Now he went to the Supreme Court and filed a case. He is now challenging the validity of 24th and 25th Constitutional Amendment Acts. Right? Those questions were dealt by the court. So what was the court's verdict? 24th Amendment Act was completely upheld. Yes, இதெல்லாம் கூட நாளைக்கு ஒரு கொஸ்டினா கேட்கலாம். Okay, which of the following amendments were partly annulled in Keshavananda Bharati judgment? Okay, 23rd, 24th, 25, 26. Okay, 24th Amendment Act was completely upheld. So which means that the court accepts that the parliament has the power to make amendments to fundamental rights. Okay, but 25th Amendment Act, a part of it was invalidated. What was that part? The part, see, what is 25th Amendment Act? I just told you now, no? What is that? Yeah, any law that gives effect to DPSP, even if it violates fundamental rights, it cannot even be questioned in a court of law, right? That part was left out. That part cannot even be questioned. That alone was struck down. Why? Because the judges, they sat, they thought so much, and they came up with a set of principles which they felt are essential for the maintenance of the character of this constitution. If any of these principles are affected, the nature of the constitution itself will be changed. Okay, I'll tell you. And each judges, they came up with their own set of principles. Okay, what are those principles? Rule of law, separation of institutions, right? Power of judicial review, right? So sovereign nature of our constitution, right? Republican character of our constitution. In the Mari, many judges, they all sat together, they came up with a list of propositions. Okay, so one of the principles is the power of judicial review. So it means that that affect பண்ணவே முடியாது. But that is what 25th Amendment Act is doing. 25th Amendment Act is trying to take out the power of judicial review. So that is why the part of 25th Amendment Act alone was invalidated. Okay, so basically we already have got the answer for this question. Was the direct result of Supreme Court's decision is which amendment? 24th. Okay, so anyway, Keshavananda Bharati case had decided, it had upheld the validity of 24th Amendment Act completely. So it means that that is because the judges have also realized that it is not correct to put a blanket ban on the power of parliament to amend fundamental rights, because constitution has to evolve over a period of time. So judges had a revisitation of their judgment that they have rendered earlier. So that is why the judges in Keshavananda Bharati case had completely taken a different stand from their brother judges of Golaknath's case. Okay, so that is why 24th Amendment Act completely upheld. 25th Amendment Act, part of it was annulled, right? So this happened. But the word basic structure doctrine was not put forward in this Keshavananda Bharati judgment. Okay, it was a hazy idea somewhere developed in the Supreme Court that there are some principles basic to maintain the character of constitution. That affect pannumna constitution character maarirum. Okay, but Indira Gandhi was very angry at the outcome of Keshavananda Bharati judges, right? So that is why some of the judges who gave this judgment, they were bypassed, you know that? They were superseded, and it was a 13-judge bench. Okay, do you know what is the present strength of Supreme Court today? 34, including the Chief Justice, right? So how can you make changes to this number of judges? Parliament by law, correct? It can make changes. We have an act called the Supreme Court Number of Judges Act, right? That keeps changing, right? So during the time of 73, the total number of judges in Supreme Court, it was fixed at 13, right? So a full bench of judges, all 13 judges, they sat together and decided upon these questions in Keshavananda Bharati case. Out of 13, the ratio was 7 and 6. 7 gave this judgment. 6 were on the side of government. And the 6 என்ன சொன்னாங்கன்னா இதென்ன புதுசா நீங்களா உங்களுக்கு கொடுக்குறீங்க basic character adu idunla. Parliament constitution makers never intended to have such restrictions. So they were siding on the side of government. But the 7 judges, the majority judgment, they brought in limitations. What is the limitation? You can amend to the extent that the basic character does not get affected, right? So the Chief Justice was on the side of the 7 judges. The next 3 senior most judges were also on the side of the 7 judges. But the 4th senior most judge was on the side of government, right? He is A.N. Ray, Marindanath Ray, right? So he will be made as the next Chief Justice, superseding these 3 judges, right? This will set the course for clash between judiciary and executive, which will be resolved in the series of 3 judgments in 1980, 92, and 97, I think. First judges, second judges, and third judges case, right? So what I'm trying to point out here is, at the end of Keshavananda Bharati case, Indira Gandhi was fuming with anger in the sense, who are you to limit my powers of making changes to the constitution? So she was on her way to constitute a review bench. Okay, அந்த நேரம் பார்த்து என்னாச்சுன்னா some changes happened. Emergency broke out. Okay, Indira Gandhi was on her plan. A.N. Ray was made as a Chief Justice. Now A.N. Ray was persuaded by Indira Gandhi, make a review bench. Okay, review bench and review your own decision that you have given in Keshavananda Bharati case. And the limitations in the form of basic structure, character, adala vandu you should throw it out. So she was on a course to have a bench to review the judgment in Keshavananda Bharati case. But in the meanwhile, emergency broke out. Okay, and when emergency broke out, something else also happened. Indira Gandhi's candidature, membership in the house was declared to be invalid. Okay, because of what? It was because of corrupt electoral practices. Okay, under Representation of People's Act 1951, we have a particular section which says some activities are called as corrupt electoral practices. Right? What are those corrupt electoral practices? Yeah, using public government machinery for one's personal electoral campaigns. Correct? That would come under the definition of corrupt electoral practices. What else? That is electoral offense. Electoral offense is different from corrupt electoral practices. Okay, corrupt electoral practices, other things are bribing voters. Okay, giving bribe to voters. Next is arranging conveyance for voters. வீட்ல இருந்து பூத் வரைக்கும் கூட்டிட்டு போய் கொண்டு வந்து விடுறது, இதெல்லாம் பண்ணாலும் that is also corrupt electoral practice. So many things are there. So Indira Gandhi was accused of corrupt electoral practice by one Mr. Raj Narayan. Right, Raj Narayan had filed a petition accusing Indira Gandhi of misusing government machinery. And the court, which and okay, next, where can you file such a petition? Correct, in the respective High Court. So since Indira Gandhi contested from UP, in the Allahabad High Court, the election petition was filed accusing Indira Gandhi of corrupt electoral practice. And what was the judgment of Allahabad High Court? It said that yes, Indira Gandhi is she is convicted. Okay, if she is convicted, then she has to lose her seat. Right. So that is why she immediately went on an appeal to Supreme Court. Okay, at that time Supreme Court was on vacation. Okay, a vacation bench. Vacation benches, a single bench, single judge will be there. Right, Krishna IAS, V.R. Krishna IAS, who was also very instrumental in judicial activism, public interest litigation. So he was a judge at that point of time. So Krishna IAS had accepted the against the order of the Allahabad High Court. Okay, he was disposing it. So when the case was under appeal, Indira Gandhi brought in a new amendment to the Constitution. What is that amendment? 39th Constitutional Amendment Act. Right? 39th Amendment Act, what effect did it have? 39th Amendment Act said that the election of Prime Minister, President, Speaker shall never be questioned before any court of law. அப்ப எங்க தான் கொஸ்டின் பண்ணுவீங்க அப்படின்னா, நாங்களே ஒரு பாடி கிரியேட் பண்ணி நாங்களே டீல் பண்ணிப்போம். Correct? That is 39th Amendment Act. Okay. So validity of 39th Amendment Act was also made as a part of the pending appeal case in Supreme Court. Indira Gandhi's case is pending. Right? Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan is pending in the Supreme Court. Adula vandu the Supreme Court decided to look into the validity of 39th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, and in that case, the Supreme Court once again reaffirmed the principles put forward in the Keshavananda Bharati case, that there are certain character of the Constitution which cannot be amended at all. So அப்படி திருப்பி அதை சொல்லி தான் வந்து பேசிக் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்ங்கிற டாக்டரின் வந்து அப்படி ஒன்று டெவலப் ஆயிடுச்சு. Okay, when the judges of Indira Gandhi case came up with this basic philosophies that should not be altered, they never thought that இதெல்லாம் வந்து it will continue for eternity. They thought that in this case we are coming up with the principle, but because of its reiteration in the next case, in the Indira Gandhi's case, basic structure doctrine came to stay forever. Right? It was Indira Gandhi's case, which was a challenge to 39th Amendment Act, which confirmed and reaffirmed the jurisprudence of Supreme Court as developed in the form of basic structure doctrine in the Keshavananda Bharati judgment. Okay, right. And what was the impact of Indira Gandhi's case? Indira Gandhi's case also added a few more aspects to this basic structure doctrine. What is that? Free and fair elections were made as a part of basic structure doctrine, right? And one other case is also instrumental. Okay, so Indira Gandhi case achieved this effect. So the entire 39th Amendment Act, which immunized the elections, that was actually completely declared to be invalid in Indira Gandhi's case. Okay, now Parliament responds back. How does Parliament respond back? 42nd Amendment Act. Okay, it's like a battle going on between Parliament and judiciary. Now Parliament responds back. Parliament increases the scope of article. So basically, see, Parliament is angry. அது என்ன நாங்க கேசவானந்த பாரதி கேஸோட அந்த பேசிக் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் பிலாசபி ஒத்துக்க மாட்டேங்கிறோம் நாங்க நினைச்சிட்டு இருந்தா நீங்க என்னன்னா அது கரெக்ட்னு சொல்லி இப்போ ஒரு ஜட்மெண்ட் வர கொடுக்குற. So to nullify this, Parliament comes up with an amendment changing Article 368. New provisions were added to Article 368. What does it say? Nothing shall prevent the Parliament from making any kind of amendments to this Constitution. அப்படின்னா அது என்ன பேசிக் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஆகுது அதெல்லாம் ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. So we can make any kind of changes to it, right? That is the substance of 42nd Amendment Act. And one more change was also brought in. What was that? The exemptions available under Article 31 were further expanded. Like she said, 31C. இதுக்கு முன்னாடி வந்து so எப்ப ஆட் பண்ணாங்க 31C? Now you have a clear idea. When was it added? 25th Amendment Act. அங்க என்ன சொன்னாங்க? If a law is made so as to give effect to DPSP under 39B and 39C, அது வந்து ஃபண்டமெண்டல் ரைட் வயலேட் பண்ணா கூட தப்பு இல்லை அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. Now what they are doing is அது என்ன 39B 39C மட்டும் லிமிட் பண்ணிக்கிட்டு any DPSP. Okay, so Parliament is trying to expand its powers of making any kinds of law, right? So now if the amended Article 31C, how does it read now? It says that any law for giving effect to DPSP, any DPSP, even if it violates fundamental rights, it shall not be held to be invalid. Correct? It has widely expanded its scope of amendment. Now, this is now questioned in the next important case, which is Minerva Mills case. Right? Minerva Mills case is a case involving the state action of nationalization of a private industry. Okay, what is this? What is the meaning of nationalization of private industry? Do we have a constitutional basis for such laws of nationalization? Do we have such a constitutional basis for such nationalization laws? No? Are you sure? DPSP 39B 39C, it allows for prevention of concentration of wealth. Nationalization is a way of prevention of concentration of wealth. Correct? Ambani itself having all industries. If the state takes it over, no, Ambani has nothing, right? Ambani is also brought like everybody else. So prevention of concentration of wealth doesn't happen. Correct? So that is why nationalization laws then used to be in existence. We had a law that nationalized industries. The industries were poor performers. Okay. So Minerva Mills is a industry, is a private industry in Karnataka. Okay, Minerva Mills was brought under government control. Why was it brought under government control? Because it was loss making for 3 or 4 consecutive quarters. Okay, continuous loss making here, the government is saying that I will take over the industry. Why? It's not just about your capital, it's also about the livelihood of hundreds of laborers who are working in your factory. So it has to be better managed. That is why nationalization laws existed so as to take over the control of sick industries. Okay, and under such laws, Minerva Mills was nationalized. Now, the capitalist, the owner of Minerva Mills, he feels, நான் என் காசெல்லாம் போட்டு இண்டஸ்ட்ரி ஒன்று கட்டி நீங்க வாடி நேஷனலைஸ் பண்ணிட்டு போற. So he feels that his property is being violated, right? So he goes to the court, files a case challenging the validity of Minerva Mills case. In that case, the validity of 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act also becomes a part of the questions, right? And the court gives a judgment. What is the judgment? The court gives a judgment by saying that, see, First Amendment Act brought DPSP is more important than fundamental rights. Golaknath judgment, what did it do? It brought fundamental rights more important than DPSPs. Now, Keshavananda Bharati, what did it do? It once again brought DPSPs more important than fundamental rights because it is allowing laws that give effect to DPSPs can even violate fundamental rights. DPSPs are held at higher pedestal. Correct? In the Maria poitu, now the court brings a conclusion to this dispute, which is more important than the other, right? And the court says that both are two wheels of the same chariot. It has to run properly, all that. So the court finds a harmony that exists between both fundamental rights and DPSPs. That is, one cannot exist without the other. Okay. Political democracy alone doesn't have any meaning until you have economic and social democracy. Similarly, economic social democracy alone does not have meaning until you have political rights. Correct? So that is why it was decided that both fundamental rights and DPSPs are equally important, right? So that was the judgment of Minerva Mills case that sealed the position. So that is why you will not find any other parliament's activism or parliament's adventure in making DPSPs more important than fundamental rights after this case. That's why the confusion poitu. Minerva Mills, the question has been once for all settled that there exists a equality, parity between fundamental rights and DPSPs. Okay. So after that, what has been the case of basic structure doctrine evolution? It has all been piecemeal efforts at adding more and more principles to basic structure doctrine. In SR Bommai case, which dealt about the misuse of Article 356, a few more provisions were added to basic structure doctrine. What was that? Regarding federalism, secularism was added, right? Indira Sawhney case, rule of law was added. The Murray basic structure doctrine keeps continuous expansion, right? So, but the idea is that there are certain. So, if you ask me today, sir, can the parliament amend anything of the constitution? Can the parliament amend fundamental rights? Yes, it can amend, provided it does not alter the basic philosophies in the form of basic structure doctrine. Correct. So there is no limitation on the power of parliament. The only limitation exists is that it's a judicially invented doctrine, which is the philosophy of basic structure doctrine. Okay, that acts as a limitation. Okay, apart from that, constitution does not inherently have any limitations on the power of parliament to make any kind of amendments. Right. So that's all. This is the entire discussion centered around basic structure doctrine. Right. So the most important amendments you always have to keep in your mind is First Amendment, 24th, 25th, 17th Amendment as well, then 42nd. That's all. These many amendments, if you remember, these are all what has led to today's basic structure doctrine narrative. Okay. After that, it's not amendments which are being questioned. Some actions whichever new cases go to Supreme Court. If at all Supreme Court finds something can be added more to the basic structure doctrine, it keeps expanding its scope. Okay. All right. So the first theme is covered. We move on to the next theme. So next theme is related to Delhi, constitutional status of Delhi. Okay, Delhi Services Act, right? How many of you have a clear idea about this issue of Delhi Services issue? What happened? What is this ongoing conflict between Delhi and the central government? Okay, sorry, transfer of civil servants. Okay, but to understand this conflict, to understand this issue clearly, you should understand the constitutional provisions for Delhi. Has it been already addressed in the classes here? Yes. No. Okay. Okay. So basically, do you know what is seventh schedule? Yes. Seventh schedule divides the powers of lawmaking between center and states, right? So seventh schedule has list 1, it has list 2, it has list 3, right? Then the power of execution is there, power of legislation is there. Okay. So tell me, who has the power on list 1 matters? This alone is exclusive, correct? No other state legislature can make laws on union list matters, correct? This is legislation. Okay. Legislation and execution. So who executes? Council of Ministers. Okay. Regarding state list matters, who can make laws? State legislatures. Who executes? State Council of Ministers. For example, in the case of police, we have Tamil Nadu police, Karnataka police, separate police departments, right? Who makes laws governing the conditions of respect? What about forest? Forest is a concurrent list matter, right? Who can make laws? Both parliament plus state legislature. State Council of Ministers, with the caveat ordinarily. Okay, ordinarily, if a parliament makes a law conferring the power of execution in the hands of union authority, then union authority can also execute. Okay, for example, you take school education, right? Who executes? State. Every state has its own teachers who give education, but who can make laws on education? Both parliament as well as state, right? But execution is normally done by state education department. But think about CBSE schools. There you have a separate pool of teachers, correct? So until the center creates a separate executive, ordinarily on list 3 matters, the execution is done by state executive, right? So this is the normal principle. Okay, but when it comes to union territories alone, this undergoes a change. Okay, what undergoes a change? Here you find changes happening. What is the change? Are you guys clear about this distribution of powers? Yes. But when it comes to union territories, right, we have a reason behind why some territories are earmarked as union territories. You'll be taught in the classes later. When it comes to union territories like Pondicherry, Diu, Daman, okay, Delhi, these are all union territories. Imagine every union territory other than Delhi. Okay, for every union territory other than Delhi, the arrangement is, see, Pondicherry is a separate union territory, Delhi is a separate union territory, then all other union territories. All other union territories like Andaman, they don't have a legislative body. The assembly, then in that case, who can make laws on these matters? The same parliament which can make laws. So who will execute? Union Council of Ministers. But with Pondicherry, the arrangement is slightly different. Okay, the arrangement is Pondicherry has a legislative assembly. Delhi also has a legislative assembly. Okay, so that is where for Pondicherry and Delhi, Parliament can also make laws on state list matters. See, for states, this is exclusive ordinarily. Only during emergency situation, Parliament can make laws on state list matters for states. But for union territories, on a daily basis also, both Parliament as well as state legislatures, both of them can make laws for list 2 matters. Right? Who executes? State Council of Ministers, but every day Union Council of Ministers will give directions to the State Council of Ministers. Okay. Whereas when it comes to states, that is not the arrangement. You imagine the case of Tamil Nadu. Do you think every day Amit Shah will call Tamil Nadu police DGP and tell him go do law and order like this? He doesn't have the competence to do that. But when it comes to union territories, that is not the case. The union can, on a daily basis, give directions and oversee the implementation of policies by the state executive. Right? When I say union territory, I'm referring to Pondicherry and Delhi. Okay. Okay, this is a general arrangement, but for Pondicherry and Delhi, there is a specific difference. What is that specific difference? For Delhi alone, some changes are made. Okay. See, if it is Pondicherry, okay, if it is Pondicherry, on list 2, you have so many matters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Land, agriculture, animal husbandry, police. Okay. Many matters are there. All matters, Parliament will make laws. The Legislative Assembly of Pondicherry will also make laws. That's fine. But when it comes to Delhi, the arrangement is slightly different. Okay, what is that? There are a few matters of state list on which the Legislative Assembly of Delhi can never make laws. What are those matters? Right? These are 3 matters on which Delhi is not given the powers to make laws. Okay, and there is a reason behind that. Why? Delhi is a national capital, right? National capital, land is always a commodity in demand for center. Why? Tomorrow India can go and have a new diplomatic relationship established with the country of Kailasa. There's a country called Kailasa, right? So we can enter into a diplomatic agreement with them. If we enter, we have to create an embassy for Kailasa here in Delhi. That's land, correct? But if land is under the control of Kejriwal, do you think he will give land for center? He will not. So the friendly relationship gets affected, correct? And the central government always wants more and more land for building more parliament, new ministries. So that is why land cannot be given in the hands of state Delhi government. Okay, because you never know. Kejriwal might have other plans. He will feel that this is my land. I could have built a shopping complex here. I could have added to the revenue of Delhi. Now these guys are asking for it. I will not give this land. I'll give a land 35 kilometers away. Okay, that is a problem which can happen. That is why it was decided when it comes to national capital territory, the control over land should not be vested in the hands of the Delhi government, but instead it should be only in the hands of the union. Right? Same is the case, logic behind other police, law, public order as well. Okay, Narendra Modi comes to Tamil Nadu once in a while. So once in a year, if he comes here, it is easy to coordinate law and order, protocol, and all, be in touch. But Narendra Modi keeps going here and there in Delhi every day. So that is why another government calling another set of officials, telling them he's going here, provide protocol. Kejriwal may say that no, I have another state function. Angada and the police will be there. It affects, correct? It does not allow for a smooth functioning of the center. That is the reason. And moreover, Prime Minister security, all that is also involved in that. So that is why the Delhi police is directly brought under the control of union. Okay. So this is the reason why for Delhi, the power of legislation over these matters is not at all conferred under the constitution. So while Pondicherry can make laws on all matters of state list, Delhi can make laws on all matters except these 3 matters of state list. Right? But center parliament can make laws on these exclusively plus all other matters. Yes or no? Yes. Clear? Delhi government does not have any exclusive sphere of legislation. Understand that. Correct? Whereas Tamil Nadu has a exclusive sphere of legislation. That is list 2. But Delhi government does not have an exclusive sphere. It is always a shared sphere. அதுல கூட பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த ஒரு 3 சப்ஜெக்ட்ல மட்டும் டெல்லிக்கு எந்த பவருமே கிடையாது. Okay, this is the constitutional arrangement. And one of the subject matter here is regarding services. Okay, right. This is something that you should keep in your mind. Now you should understand the constitutional position of an authority called lieutenant governor. Okay. See, when we made the original constitution, we had one article called Article 239, which dealt with union territories. Then this article was amended once to incorporate provisions for Pondicherry in 239A. Once again, it was amended to incorporate provisions for Delhi in the form of Article 239, AA, AB. These were all introduced. Okay, so when you read these provisions talk about a legislative assembly for Delhi, what will be its maximum size, how much should be the size of the council of ministers, right? What is the procedure to be followed in legislative assembly? So அதெல்லாம் கொடுத்திருப்பாங்க. It also talks about an authority called as lieutenant governor, right? The lieutenant governor, he is the representative of the president, okay, who will be always there in Delhi, right? If at all a decision has to happen, lieutenant governor is not agreeing to the elected government. Okay, constitution says this. Lieutenant governor does not agree to the elected government's decision. In that case, what shall happen? Sorry? The matter dispute will be referred to the president. Until the president decides, this is where the problem starts. Okay, constitution says elected government ஒன்னு இருக்கு, then you have a lieutenant governor. So if the lieutenant governor does not accept the decisions of the elected government, the matter shall be referred to the president. And until the president decides on the matter, it is the lieutenant governor's discretion which shall prevail. So the constitution is some way trying to empower lieutenant governor over the elected government, right? So this has been the prominent reason for dispute between Kejriwal and between the lieutenant governor all through the so many years. Okay, see, for example, Kejriwal wants to come up with very vote catching schemes. Okay, like he wants to utilize Swiggy, Zomato for door-to-door delivery of ration items. Rice எல்லாம் வந்து ஸ்விக்கில போட்டுட்டா it goes to your doorstep. People will like it. Yes, he wants to give free bus passes for women in Delhi buses. Women will like, but lieutenant governor will not prevent. He will prevent it. He will say that Mr. Kejriwal, our financial position is so bad that we cannot do all these things. Our first priority is we should ensure hospitals are made better in Delhi. Abdina, don't you think that democracy itself is affected here? That is why people have voted for Kejriwal. People have expressed that he is the person who will represent my interest. Why is an unelected head in the form of lieutenant governor deciding what is good for the people? Correct? So this dispute went to the Supreme Court in 2018. Okay, and in 2018, the Supreme Court, a constitution bench of the Supreme Court, decided upon the constitutional position of lieutenant governor and the Delhi chief minister. It gave a judgment. Okay, what is the judgment? It said that Delhi occupies a special position among other union territories. Okay, one, it does not, it has an elected legislature. Okay, and it has no nominated members and anything. So genuinely, everybody who is there in the legislature of Delhi, they are all proper representatives of the interest of the people of Delhi, right? So Supreme Court decided, except for these 3 matters, land, law and order, and what is that? Police. The moonu thavara, in all other matters, the lieutenant governor has to act in the aid and advice of the elected government. You cannot act independently, right? This was the Supreme Court judgment in 2018. Okay. Now central government has come up with the issue. It has created an issue in the form of notification. The government, central government, has created a new notification. What is the new notification? Center says the entire control over higher services, okay, Group A services, senior bureaucracy in Delhi government. Okay, Delhi government has a lot of departments. No, water board is there, municipal department is there, right? Land and every other department is also there. So all the senior postings from now onwards will be decided only by the center. Okay, that was the notification. Delhi government's power was excluded. Delhi government cannot decide on the postings and transfers and disciplinary proceedings of services of Group A category. Okay, this was a notification issued by the center. Correct. Now, the AAP government, they went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court looked into this dispute. Supreme Court struck down this notification issued by the center. Okay, on what grounds? Supreme Court came up with a new principle called, any idea? Anybody? Supreme Court in this instant case, recently in 2023 May, the Supreme Court had given a new judgment. And the judgment, there are some principles that are put forward. If those principles are violated, action of the center will be struck down. Okay, what is the principle? It's called triple chain of accountability. Have you heard of that? No? Okay, it's a new constitutional development which helps us in understanding how the elected and the nominated heads in Delhi have to function. Okay, the Supreme Court in this present case, it has come up with a principle called the principle of triple chain of accountability. Okay, what is this? First, civil servants are accountable to the Council of Ministers. Okay, Council of Ministers, they are accountable to the legislature, and the legislature is accountable electorate to the people. Okay, if any action of the center affects any of this link, the action of the center will be invalidated. Okay, right? Can you tell me which part of this link is the action of the center in removing the control over services? Right? Which part of the link is getting affected? First part. Correct? Where if I'm a minister, I should be able to question and I should be able to take him to task for his acts of omission and commission. Correct? But if this is taken out from me, if you're saying that my Delhi government staff will be answerable to some other group of people, it is breaking this chain. Yes. What is the meaning of transfers, postings, disciplinary proceedings will no longer be in the hand of this people? It means that you are reducing the accountability factor. Correct. This is the reason why the center's notification of vesting the power of services exclusively in the hands of Delhi government was actually, it was validated by the Supreme Court. Okay, so this was a principle that was put forward in this instant case. It's called the triple chain of accountability. Any actions in Delhi, it will be tested against this principle. And if any of the link is broken, the action will be invalidated. Right? So that is why the notification was declared to be invalid. Now Parliament responded back. Parliament has come up with a new law. Okay, I think it's called National Capital Authority Act. Okay, a new act has been made by the Parliament. What is the act? Okay, the new act is basically to negate the effect of Supreme Court's judgment in this case. Supreme Court had declared what? Delhi does not have, center cannot take away the power of states. Correct? To negate this judgment, a new act has been brought in. National Capital Civil Service Authority. I don't remember the name of the act exactly, but an authority has been created, new authority. What is this authority? It's called as National Capital Civil Service Authority. As a result of this act, maybe you can search on the internet and find out what is the exact name of the act. So what is the effect of this authority? The effect is you are creating a new body. Okay, what is a new body? It's a composite body comprising of Chief Minister, Home Secretary of Delhi, Chief Secretary of Delhi government, plus Home Secretary of the Union, right? Three authorities, Chief Minister, Home Secretary and Chief Secretary, right? Three authorities will be a part of that body. Okay, please listen carefully. What does the Supreme Court judgment say? You cannot exclude the power of Delhi government. Okay, but indirectly, now what they are doing, bringing a Chief Minister plus two representatives of the Union. Don't you think those two members can always override the effect of Chief Minister? Correct? So this is the effect of the act which has been recently made by Parliament. Now the Delhi government is once again agreed because of this act. Now they have approached the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to look into the validity of this act. The question is still pending before the Supreme Court, right? Yes, we have to wait for the logic of Supreme Court, whether it upholds this act or whether it nullifies this act. But as of now, these are the sequence of events that have happened. Delhi has a special constitutional provisions which makes it very different from other union territories, right? Because it has a separate legislature, because it has all the members only elected. Whereas Pondicherry, you will also have nominated members also. Okay, Jammu Kashmir is yet to have a legislative assembly on its own. But if you actually read J&K Reorganization Act, which creates a new legislative assembly for J&K, you will find that there is a provision for also having 2 nominated members for J&K. Okay, and those 2 nominated members will be only women members. If at all the Lieutenant Governor of J&K feels that women representation in J&K is low, because it's an Islamic society, there's a possibility that women may not come out openly and participate in political affairs, right? So there is a possibility of underrepresentation of women. So if that happens in J&K Legislative Assembly, the Lieutenant Governor can always nominate 2 women members as members. Okay, so among the union territories with the Legislative Assembly, Delhi is the only body which does not have any nominated members, right? And these are the provisions in the Constitution which prevents Delhi from legislating on 3 reserved fields only for the center. Other matters, Delhi can also legislate. But center's recent notification, it excluded the power of Delhi government to make laws and to execute matters on services, even though Constitution permits it to do so. Right, so it was decided in this case that such a notification affects triple chain of accountability. So hence the notification was invalidated by the Supreme Court. As a response, the Parliament came up with a new act. The new act tried to do in a coveted manner what it cannot be done directly. How? By diminishing the importance of Chief Minister and reducing his voice when it comes to all these matters, transfers, postings, and disciplinary matter actions. Can you follow it? Yes. So this is the recent issue that has happened in Delhi. So either question like in the same manner like what I have framed the question, like how much seats are there for Delhi? 3 seats are there in Rajya Sabha for Delhi. Okay, so among the union territories, Delhi has the highest representation in Rajya Sabha. Many union territories do not even have a single member also. Okay, you should know that also. And Delhi has a separate high court. You know that Delhi High Court separately deals Delhi alone, right? Whereas Pondicherry, the jurisdiction is shared with Madras High Court. Okay, so that is also another unique fact you can know with respect to Delhi. All right, I think that much is enough to cover about center around recent issues regarding Delhi. Okay. All right, we move on. We move on to freedom of speech and expression. The recent issues that are centered around freedom of speech and expression. Okay, what all have happened in the recent days centered around freedom of speech and expression? One is the defamation suit of Rahul Gandhi, correct? That was an incident that had happened in the recent past. Next is any instance of hate speech have you come across in the recent days? What? Anything regarding hate speech? Sorry? TN Minister, what did he speak? Okay. But was there any complaint filed against him? It was? Okay. Sorry? Parliament. Inside Parliament, no? This BJP MP, Ramesh, I think, he went on a very aggressive speech against a Muslim MP, Danish Ali, correct? Such kind of speeches we do see often repeated targeting against members of Islamic community, right? So such kind of hate speeches often visible, right? And these days we don't come across many instances of sedition law being slapped against journalists and critics against the government. But otherwise, until last year, sedition was also very prominently used. Because anybody dares to criticize the government, immediately government slaps a case of sedition against them, puts them behind bars, right? So defamation, hate speech, sedition, they are all linked to the fundamental right of speech and expression. Okay, so let's take the case of defamation suit of Rahul Gandhi, right? What has happened in that instant case? Rahul, okay, first of all, what is defamation? What is your answer? Defamation. Bringing down someone. Affecting the dignity of a person. Okay. Sorry? Yeah, it's basically a A conscious attempt. Do you want to break? எல்லாம் வெளியில போயிட்டு வரக்குள்ள கிளாஸ் முடிஞ்சு போயிடும். Okay. So if you just want to use the washroom and all, drink water, maybe you can just go, no problem. So defamation is a willful attempt to cause ill repute, to reduce the standing of a member in the eyes of the society. Okay, it can have various impacts. The impact is basically, it can be political, right? It can spoil a person's political career completely, or it can spoil his economic chances, right? If you go and speak bad things about me, then tomorrow parents will be reluctant to enroll their kids in the academy, correct? So this is how defamation can have political consequences, economic consequences. It can also have a lot of social consequences also. How? Do you know that people, if you have watched all those vintage English movies and all, you will come across knowing how people settle disputes between them earlier. Okay. Why? How do they do it? By gun. If I feel that I have been insulted by another person, they used to call each other to a duel, D-U-E-L, right? D-U-E-L, right? They know one of the Governor General of India fought a duel with one of the member of his council. Okay, so Warren Hastings, right? Warren Hastings, he was impeached in London. He was called to London and then he was tried in the British Parliament and all that because of a lot of instances that happened in India. Basically, the idea that I'm trying to say is Warren Hastings and one of the member of his council, Philip Francis, both of them, they stood next to each other. They took a rifle, pointed at each other, a pistol at each other. 1, 2, 3. They fired a shot. Luckily, Warren Hastings' shot was the first to reach the other person. And that is how earlier people used to settle rivalry between themselves. Okay. So that is why defamation became an offense in England in the 16th and 17th century. So that if people feel that they have been aggrieved because of somebody's words, they can peacefully settle it in a court of law rather than fighting it on the streets in Britain. Okay, that is why, to prevent anarchy and public disorder in happening, defamation was made as an offense. Okay, so defamation is an offense in Indian context as well. As per IPC, we have section 499 and section 500 of Indian Penal Code. Not only that, defamation is also one of the listed grounds under Article 19, which acts as a reasonable restriction on a person's freedom of speech and expression, right? So if you read Article 19, there are a lot of freedoms guaranteed. Along with them, the grounds on which the freedoms can be restricted are also actually brought in the same article itself. Okay, so defamation, see, these are type of questions that UPSC can ask. For example, the term contempt of court, okay, is defined in the Constitution. Is it so? It's not defined. It's mentioned. Okay, what is contempt? What is civil contempt? What is criminal contempt? I'll mention it. Okay, but when you read Lakshmikant, everything you read it in one go. அதனால உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது இதுல எது கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன்ல இருக்கு, எது செப்பரேட் ஆக்ட்னால வந்தது அப்படின்னு தெரியும். ஓகே, but defamation is something that is mentioned in the Constitution, also declared as an offense as per a separate law, that is Indian Penal Code. Okay, right. So what is this present issue regarding Rahul Gandhi? Rahul Gandhi was addressing election campaign in Karnataka, in Kolar. Okay, when he was in that election campaign, he made a passing remark. He expressed his surprise that why is that all thieves have the surname Modi? Okay, he was actually referring to Nirav Modi, Lalit Modi, correct? So, but his intention was to bring Narendra Modi also in that category. Okay, but the problem is that speech was perceived by certain members of the Modi community. Modi is a caste group in Gujarat, right? So those community people, they felt, one of the member who's actually a BJP MLA in Gujarat, so that member had perceived this is a speech that has defamed him and his community. Okay, so that is why he went and filed a defamation suit in a district level court. Okay, in a trial court in Gujarat. The trial court had declared that Rahul Gandhi is guilty of defamation. So he was given the maximum possible punishment. Usually in defamation cases, people are just given a warning. Okay, warning, at least fine will be slapped on them. Okay, a minimum amount of fine, just a symbolic punishment. But it's a matter of surprise that for this kind of a statement where one person was not actually even targeted. Okay, if at least if Lalit Modi and Nirav Modi come and file a defamation suit, we can accept it because they were mentioned in that speech. Modi, I don't know what Praveen Modi or some other Modi, he was affected. He was not even mentioned in the speech, but he had gone and filed a case. And taking of that, the court had given the maximum permissible punishment for defamation on Rahul Gandhi. Correct? And once the punishment was given, Rahul Gandhi tried appealing it in Gujarat High Court. Okay, the High Court refused to accept his appellate petition, so that's why he had to go to Supreme, right? And when he went and filed a petition in Supreme Court, the Supreme Court had stayed the execution of the sentence. Why? Because the Supreme Court looked at the order of the lower court. It felt that the order of the lower court is not in the best interest of justice. Okay, what do I mean by that? ஒரு ஜட்ஜ் வந்து ஒரு ஆர்டர் ஜட்மெண்ட் கொடுக்குறாருன்னா வாட் இஸ் த ரீசன் வை ஹி ஹாஸ் பீன் கம்பெல் டு கிவ் த மேக்ஸிமம் பாசிபிள் பனிஷ்மெண்ட் இன் திஸ் கேஸ் ஹி ஷுட் கிவ் அ வெரி கிளியர் ஸ்பீக்கிங் ஆர்டர். அதாவது இது மன்னிக்க முடியாத குற்றம்னு ஹி ஷுட் ப்ரூவ் இட் த்ரூ ஹிஸ் ஆர்டர். இவ்வளவு மோசமான தப்பு ராகுல் காந்தி பண்ணியிருக்காரு, அதனால ஐ எம் கிவிங் மேக்ஸிமம் பாசிபிள் பனிஷ்மெண்ட். அதெல்லாம் ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. ஐ எம் கிவிங் ஹிம் மேக்ஸிமம் I think 3 years of imprisonment. I think 2 years. 2 years maximum imprisonment has been awarded. The reasons of why the maximum punishment was given was found to be absent in the order. So the court, this is not correct. So that is why Supreme Court had stayed the order. It had asked the court to once again try and once again give this judgment. Okay, so in the meanwhile, what all has happened? That is worth considering. As soon as the order was given, immediately Rahul Gandhi was disqualified from the membership of his Lok Sabha, from Lok Sabha. Okay, but do you know the grounds on which a person can be disqualified from their membership of Lok Sabha? What are the grounds? Sorry, what are they? Okay, if a member holds an office of profit, he can be disqualified. On grounds of defection, he can be disqualified. And on conviction on offenses. Okay, on grounds of conviction for offenses for which the period of imprisonment is for a period of more than 2 years. Correct? Okay, but tell me, who is the authority vested with the powers to disqualify in all these 3 instances? Speaker in case of defection. Okay. Very good. President on the recommendation of Election Commission of India with respect to disqualification for holding office of profit. Same with respect to this also. Disqualification on conviction, right? President on the recommendation of Election Commission of India. Okay, so the grounds of disqualification are 3: for holding office of profit, for on grounds of defection, as well as on conviction for certain offenses. Okay, so which section of RPA talks about it? Section 8 of RPA 1951. See, there are 2 laws which deals with elections in this country. One is Representation of Peoples Act 1950, the other one is 1951. The primary difference is 1950 talks about everything that happens before election. For example, earmarking constituencies, reserving some constituencies for SCs, STs, how electoral roll is to be created. Okay, all the procedures to be followed. Who are the officers for registering voters in the electoral roll? All those matters are dealt in Representation of Peoples Act 1950. What about qualification, disqualification for contesting elections? Right, all that corrupt electoral practice, electoral offenses, how polls are to be conducted, who is a presiding officer, who is a returning officer, and how can disputes be raised, what are the forums to raise, all that given in RPA 1951. So you can say that before election happens, all those subject matter is in RPA 1950. Conduct and post conduct of elections, all that will be subject matter of RPA 1951. So RPA 1951 has a particular section called section 8. Okay, section 8 of Representation of Peoples Act is what disqualifies a member on grounds of conviction. Okay, and when you read that, there is even a finer differentiation. Section 8 has 2 types of disqualification. One is on, if you're, let's say, Rahul Gandhi's conviction, 2 years of imprisonment. Correct? So Rahul Gandhi is put in jail today. Let's say he's imprisoned for 2 years. Upon his release after 2 years, 6 more years, he is disqualified. Then there is another provision in the same section 8, which says that if you are, instead of offenses, if you are, let's say, your court has punished you, court has found you guilty of corrupt electoral practices. Okay, in corrupt electoral practices, treatment is different. Okay, let's say you're held guilty for corrupt electoral practice, 1 year imprisonment. If it's 1 year imprisonment, does it fall under this category? You cannot even be disqualified. See, let's say I use bad words in the public. That is also a crime. Using obscene language in the public, right? But what is the punishment given? Maximum 6 months of imprisonment. 6 months imprisonment. Can I be disqualified? I cannot. For corrupt electoral practice, the punishment varies up to a maximum imprisonment of 2 years. Okay. Let's say the judge who tries this case of corrupt electoral practice gives a judgment saying that I am to be punished with an imprisonment of 1 year. Normally I cannot be disqualified. But if it is a corrupt electoral practice, even if I'm given 1 month imprisonment also, I stand being disqualified. Okay, that is the difference between these two provisions. Okay, for corrupt electoral practice, the duration of imprisonment doesn't matter. If I'm held to be guilty under corrupt electoral practice itself, I stand to be disqualified for a period of 6 years from the day when my jail time starts. It's not 6 years after this period, but from my day when I am convicted, from that period up to a maximum period of 6 years. Right? So these are the difference. So do not think that for the offense of corrupt electoral practice also 2 years imprisonment is necessary. Okay, so these are there in section 8 of RPA 1951. Earlier, there was another subsection of section 8, which is called section 8 subsection 4. Right? It reads like this: section 8(4), which was invalidated by the Supreme Court in the year 2013. Okay, in a case called Lilly Thomas versus Union of India. Okay, Lilly Thomas versus Union of India case. This section was declared invalid. Okay, what grounds? On the ground that okay, what is section 8 subsection 4? It said that if you are a sitting MLA or a MP, okay, if you are a sitting MLA or MP by a court, okay, you are given conviction. You have a period of 3 months. Within this, for the first 3 months, you will not be disqualified. And the 3 மாசத்துக்குள்ள, if you can immediately go to a higher court and get your conviction appealed. If the let's say sessions court in a district, it has given me rape, I have committed 7 years imprisonment. I am a sitting MLA. In that case, I still have 3 more months. I can immediately go to the high court, which is the appellate channel, go to the high court and appeal my sentence. Right? If I appeal, if the high court has accepted my appeal, high court can take 10 more years to dispose the appeal. Okay, just that I have to get my appeal, my judgment in the lower court, I should get it appealed in the higher court. I have 3 months time. In the 3 months, I should have got it appealed. If I can get it appealed within the 3 months, in that case, until the high court dispenses of the petition, I will not at all be disqualified. Can you understand this? If I am a sitting MLA and MP, I have a great period of until which no disqualification is possible. But if I am a common man, this period is not. Right? This was held to be unconstitutional by the court. On what grounds? Article 14 of the Constitution. Okay, equal protection of laws. What is the logic? Can you differentiate between people? Yes, you can. You can. Yeah, like should be treated alike, right? So, if a person doesn't have one hand, okay, it is very logical he should be given a scribe when writing civil service examination, right? So, those who have bodily deformities, they are treated as a separate class. They are given a separate race to run. They are not put in the same race to run. So differentiated treatment alone can ensure justice in various instances. So differentiation is not a problem per se. Differentiation should not lead to adverse discrimination. Okay, so that's why I ask you a question about intelligent ground of differentiation. Correct? Intelligence when I differentiate that people who have physical deformity, they will be given scribe. Okay, they will be given 1 more hour extra time will be granted to them. Okay, there is a logic behind this. There is a clear reasoning. Why? Because their infirmities is preventing them to be as efficient as a person with no deformity. Correct? There is a very clear, intelligent reason why a differentiation happens. அந்த மாதிரி இங்க டிஃபரன்சியேஷன் பண்றதுக்கு ஒரு லாஜிக்கே கிடையாது அப்படின்னு சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட் சொல்லிட்டாங்க. Okay, what is the logic in treating them as special category and treating citizens as a different category? There is no intelligent differential reason. So that is why this differentiation was held to be arbitrary. And arbitrariness strikes at the root of equality. So hence, this differentiation which was there in section 8(4) of RPA 1951, this was held to be invalid. இதனாலதான் immediately Lalu Prasad Yadav had to lose his membership in Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, Lalu Prasad was a sitting member at that point of time. Okay, his fodder scam that happened when he was a Bihar chief minister, and the case law judgment on okay, but so while the judgment came in the Lily Thomas case, Supreme Court had also done away with this 3 months of grace period. So that is why he immediately had to go to the jail, right? He was disqualified from his membership of the house as well, right? And the time I remember I was preparing for my examinations at that point of time, and Dr. Manmohan Singh was the prime minister. Lalu Prasad Yadav was also one of the coalition partners of Congress at that period of time. So the Congress party, they convened an urgent meeting. They wanted to come up with an immediate ordinance so as to nullify this action of Supreme Court. Okay, I remember still Rahul Gandhi was a young chap then. Okay, he came into the meeting, he took the draft ordinance, put a camera. Little did he know that after 10 years, the same provision is the reason why he was actually disqualified. If that was brought in today, he could have got that grace period. Then he would not even have been disqualified. Correct? So because this was struck away with, that is why Rahul Gandhi could not get this period. That is why immediately he was disqualified. But now what has happened is Supreme Court has stayed the execution of the sentence. Okay, there is another case law. I'm not able to remember the case law. And the case law on the 3-4 years back, there was a case law which Supreme Court says that if a sentence of conviction has been stayed by the Supreme Court, even the disqualification will cease to have effect. Okay, that is the reason as soon as Supreme Court stayed the execution of the sentence, that is the reason why immediately Rahul Gandhi's disqualification had to be set aside. He was able to once again regain his membership of Lok Sabha. Okay, so the idea that I'm just not able to remember this case law, just go and about it. When it comes to this disqualification, there are only 2 case laws that are relevant. One is Lily Thomas case. Then there's another case. That other case is related to if a Supreme Court sets aside conviction. Okay, disqualification also ceases to have effect. Okay, I'm just not able to remember that case law, but that case law is also very relevant here. Okay, because of which Rahul Gandhi was allowed to regain his membership of the house. So this was the incident which happened in the context of defamation. But UPSC can ask a different question of defamation. It will not ask about all these issues. These are all issues that you should know in your back of your mind. UPSC can ask a question something like this. Or laws against defamation can voices of dissent. Okay, laws against defamation can be weaponized to silence voices of dissent. The role played by judiciary in striking a balance between defamation and freedom of speech and expression. Okay, this will be the nature of questions that UPSC will ask. Okay, laws against defamation can be weaponized to silence voices of dissent with the quotes. In this context, highlight the role played by judiciary in striking a balance between defamation and freedom of speech and expression with the help of relevant case laws. No, UPSC is now becoming very fond of asking case laws. Okay, like 10 years back when I used to write my exams, case law கேட்க மாட்டாங்க. ஆனா நம்மளே எழுதணும்னா we used to feel that நான் மட்டும் தான் எழுத முடியும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி we feel special and exclusive when we write case laws. Now UPSC itself is asking with the help of case laws, you tell me this. Right, look at last year's question. Have you ever thought இப்படிலாம் கேட்டாங்கன்னா நாளைக்கு என்ன சார் பண்றது அந்த மாதிரி யோசிச்சிங்களா? See, look at this question. Yeah. 8th question. Relevant constitutional provisions and case laws. Constitutional provisions everybody will know. Article 14, 15, 16. You will talk about all that. Case laws, right? That is what is called special preparation must go in for your mains. Okay, and I don't believe in a preparation for prelims as such. I have never prepared for prelims. My preparation was always for mains. எல்லாம் முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் one word எடுத்து சால்வ் பண்ணிட்டோம்னா prelims preparation is over. So prelims preparation actually happens only 2-3 months before your prelims examination. Rest of the time your entire preparation is only directed at building all these good write-ups, you know, consolidating everything that you read as a good narrative. Okay, that is a skill that you should be building. Okay, so because whatever you read in your textbooks may not be asked in your examination, and even if it is asked, as I tell you, that will not give you that competitive edge. Okay, that edge is where your preparation should be directed at. Mains அதே மாதிரி தான் எல்லாரும் இந்த கொஸ்டின்லாம் பாருங்க. Explain the structure of how institutionalization of parliament. Everybody will write good answer. The range of marks for this question, okay, see, somebody is writing mains, it means that he has prepared for minimum 3 years, 2 to 3 years, correct? That's why he's come to the level where he can write his mains examination. Okay, so when he's writing that, he's competing with 15,000 more aspirants who are also on the similar levels. So you not write this. So what I want to point out is, for like this, the maximum mark something around 7.5. The least scoring mains candidate might be 6 or 6.5. That's all. Everybody almost writes the same answer. Okay, so இந்த கொஸ்டின் எல்லாம் பயங்கரமா எழுதுறதுனால வந்து ஒன்றும் ஆக போறது கிடையாது. Okay, so but I'll tell you a question like the form one which I just showed you now, constitutional perspectives on gender justice. அதை எழுதுற ஆள அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஆன்சர் ஷீட் வந்து எக்ஸாம்ல பார்த்தாங்கன்னா he'll feel special guy, you know. இந்த மாதிரி ஆன்சர்ல சாதாரண எழுதுனா கூட he will give you 7.5. Only if you can create that impression with those 3 or 4 questions per question paper. அது ரொம்ப இருக்காது அந்த கொஸ்டின், ஒரு 3 கொஸ்டின் 4 கொஸ்டின் அந்த மாதிரி. But those are the swing questions. One is, those are the range creating questions. Questions எல்லாம் ஒரு 30% of the aspirants, not this exact question, but there are years where questions have been asked which people cannot even comprehend what has been asked. I'll tell you a question. Okay, in 2019 or 20, there was a mains question asked. Okay, it is by resolution of contentious issues regarding distribution of legislative powers, the principle of federal supremacy and harmonious construction have emerged. Discuss. Can you understand? It is by resolution of contentious issues regarding distribution of legislative powers, the principle of federal supremacy and harmonious construction have emerged. அதெல்லாம் வந்து nobody was actually able to write an answer for that question. சும்மா கண்டபடி ஏதோ தெரிஞ்சதா எழுதிட்டு இருந்தாங்க, just to fill in the pages, because somebody had told them you should just fill in all the answers, all the pages. Okay, in my opinion, I would say that if you don't know an answer for a question, please don't write anything. Okay, எழுதி அரை மார்க் அதை வாங்கலாம், ஆனா அந்த எழுதி அந்த அரை மார்க்னால எல்லா ஆன்சர்ல அரை மார்க் குறையும். The person will get an impression that சும்மா you are writing something அப்படிங்கிறது. But at least if you leave it blank, yes, you may not get that half mark there, but the examiner feels that he's a no nonsense person. தெரிஞ்சா எழுதுறா, தெரியலனா எழுதல, correct? So it's all about that impression that you create in the minds of the examiner. That impression creation also happens how you answer a question which others are not able to answer. So for example, in the gender justice question, the range of the marks can be something between 3 to 7. Okay, if you have the case laws, you will be somewhere in the top range. Case laws எல்லாம் constitutional provisions ஒழுங்கா தெரியாம அதை எப்படி ஜஸ்டிஃபை பண்றதுன்னு எழுத தெரியாம, இல்ல ரைட்டிங் ஸ்கில் நல்லா இல்லாம, you have something in your mind, you don't know how to put it on paper. If you have suffered problems, you are on the lower end of the spectrum, 3.5. If your writing skills are average, if you know article 14, 15, 16, all those provisions, how do they ensure justice? Somewhere around 5.5. Okay, but if you are on the top cream, 6, 7, 7.5, right? இப்படிதான் வந்து you can get 2 marks edge in these kind of questions. Let's say 3 questions you have. Okay, you get some 6 marks edge in 3 questions. And this spillover effect can also be seen in all other questions. As I told you, the impression is set by in the mind of the examiner that, okay, very potential candidate. அதெல்லாம் சேர்த்து இன்னொரு ஒரு 6 மார்க் கூட கொடுக்கணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. Per paper, you can get a 10 mark edge over other aspirants. This is what is going to decide whether your name figures in the rank list, and even in the rank list, where you stand in the rank list, all that, it is this half mark struggle that is what is going to decide, not the commonest answers. The commonest answers anybody can deliver. Okay, but these swing questions, okay, have a lot of the 2-3 வருஷம் ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்றதெல்லாம் எதுக்குன்னா இந்த எட்ஜுக்காக மட்டும். Okay, how am I better than another aspirant? Trust me, people are 24/7, they are only obsessed with those thoughts. Okay, since I am now in Delhi and I see a lot of aspirants over there when they come and do their writing practice and all that. After writing, when they come, their only question is, sir, what more can I do to get better than that person? You told that, you showed me this is the best answer copy. Tell me. Okay, they are mad about excelling over others. Correct. So அது வரணும்னா there is a lot of preliminary work to be done. லக்ஷ்மிகாந்த் முதல்ல முடிக்கணும், கொஸ்டின் பேப்பர் எடுத்து பார்க்கணும், எழுதி பார்க்கணும், டெய்லி எழுதணும். ஓகே, so it's a long process. But anyway, why did I start with this? Yeah, I was explaining. I mean, there should have been some reason for showing you this. Yeah. Case laws. So case laws are important nowadays, especially every year at least 2-3 questions UPSC is focusing on case laws. Last year also there was a question. See this question. You cannot write this question without case laws. 7th question. Constitution of India is a living instrument with capabilities of enormous dynamism. It is a constitution made for a progressive society. Illustrate with special reference to expanding horizons. Okay. So if you were to write an answer next year, okay, can you bring, okay, if you have to write an answer next year, let's say this is the question asked next year. In the Oshafla paper, newspaper, you're getting an idea about that. Can you think creatively about what kind of news bits that you have gathered recently could possibly be used as an answer for this question? Sorry? Yeah, but how will you write about it? Right to life of an unborn fetus. Correct? Right, yes. Anything else? LGBTQ. In this present judgment, what is so empowering about making it a progressive society? Which point will you justify? Sorry? It became illegal. Sorry? Fact that there is a but so it means that it did not have any impact on expanding the horizons of right to life. Because they were in a minority. They may have dissenting opinion, but that is confined within the discussion chamber itself. That is not implemented. So then it cannot be brought in the part of your answer. It is a constitution made for a progressive society, illustrated special reference to horizon of right to life and liberty. So reservation has never been interpreted as a part of Article 21. That cannot be written here. Only expansions of how Article 21 has brought in various implicit rights under that. That should only be written here. Sorry? Yes, right to privacy should be brought in. And the right to privacy, where did you encounter it? In form of Puttaswamy case. Okay. அது see என்ன பிரச்சனைனாப்பா, நீங்க எல்லாம் பாயிண்ட் சொல்லிடுவீங்க எல்லாம் தெரியும். ஓகே, புட்டசாமி கேஸ், ரைட் டு பிரைவசி, அதை மட்டும் எழுத முடியாது இல்லையா? அதுல இருந்து என்ன சொல்ல வரீங்கிறது எழுதணும்ல, அந்த சென்டென்ஸ், அதுதான் அந்த ஸ்கில். I'm not able to see that. Special reference to expanding horizons. Who has expanded the horizons? Judiciary. Okay, so judicial case laws, which has made India a progressive society. What is a progressive society? Where more tolerance, where acceptance of varied practices, correct? Instead of imposing a single way of doing things, we are able to take along a lot of people on board with us. அது எந்த மாதிரிலாம் யோசிக்க முடியுதுங்கிறது பாருங்க. Okay, progressive society. Yeah, you're right in the sense Puttaswamy case can be brought in here, but what is the essence of your argument? What are you going to convey to the examiner? So and so things happen because of which a society has become progressive. What is that? Data protection and progressive nature of society. What is the link? Actually, when you say Puttaswamy judgment, do you know that Puttaswamy case is relevant to this LGBTQ issue? Do you know that? Puttaswamy case, you don't think that right to privacy is not only about government snooping on you. It's not only about that. Privacy, in Puttaswamy case, in fact, when this entire right to marry of homosexual, that case which happened in Supreme Court, the respondents who filed this case in Supreme Court, their argument was based on 3 recent judgments of Supreme Court. Okay, one was Nalsa judgment, the other one was Nautej Johar, where homosexuality was decriminalized. The next one was Nalsa. Third is Puttaswamy case. In Puttaswamy judgment, the Supreme Court said that right to privacy also includes the right to be confidential about one's sexual orientation. Correct? Other one thing point. Correct? Yes or no? So it is making a society more progressive in the sense we are respecting the sexual orientation of another person, not forcing him to confide, speak about it, or to discriminate against somebody on grounds of sexual orientation. That link is what is missing. That is what I need. Or if Article 21 would have been taught to you, correct? Right to dignity, in which all cases was that brought? Sorry? Yeah, you can write that also. Adultery has decriminalized. That can be also brought. Right? You know what is adultery? What is the link difference between adultery and extramarital affair? There's a difference between that. You know that? What is that? When a married woman is involved, it becomes adultery. Okay, the man could be of any status, married, unmarried, anything. But if a married woman is a part of an extramarital affair, it becomes what is called as adultery. So the man who has a sexual affair with a woman, married woman, the man can be arrested and put behind bars. You know what is the logic behind that? Because women is my property. How can you steal my property? Right? Because you are now making me in a miserable position about not knowing who the father of the offspring is. I thought it's my son and my property goes to him. But it was not even my son. It is because of this logic, Englishman's logic, Victorian morals, because of which adultery was made as a criminal offense. Okay. So that Victorian law, which was in India, made during the colonial times, that it took 670 years to be decriminalized by Supreme Court. Yes, that case can be brought in. So that has restored back choice in the hands of women. Right? So women, that also treats as if women are incapable of making their own decisions. But this decision of Supreme Court, yeah. So this decision of Supreme Court has given, what do I say, choice basically. Correct? So other lying. Okay. Anything else? Is it making it for a progressive society? That is the only point. I can tell you one thing. Even when you are imprisoned, you have to be treated in a humane manner. Correct? Just because you're imprisoned, you are not forgotten by the society that you can be tortured and tormented in any ways. Correct? What case is that? Francis Coriolis. Okay. That is what brought right to dignity. Right to speedy trial. Speedy trial, whether if I'm a guilty person or not can be easily ascertained. My life can be saved from being wasted away, rotting in the jail. Correct? Yes. So the rights of under trials, prisoners, convicts has also been expanded by Supreme Court, protected by Supreme Court in various judgments. A society which cares even for its criminals, don't you think that makes for a progressive society? Correct? The Marida on the main answer, there should be a creativity and spontaneity which should be exhibited on the day of your exam. Okay, so find out the sources of reading for all these. Okay, so I would always suggest students a book called Constitutional Law by MP Jain. Okay, it's a 2000-page book. It has, and I can tell you, last 3 years UPSC question. No, wherever a case law is asked, you will find an answer for that question will be there in that textbook. Okay, that's selective படிக்கணும். Article 21 பத்தி மட்டும் full படிக்கணும். Please read that book, do this assignment. Don't read the book entirely. You can get a soft copy of that book, Constitutional Law by MP Jain. Okay, and the soft copy it's available for free download on the internet. Take that book. Article 21 நேரா போயிட்டு அதுல ஒரு ஹெட்டிங்கே கொடுத்திருப்பாங்க, environment and ecology. Okay, when you read that, you will definitely get the answer for last year's first question in mains. The greatest success of judicial activism is constitutionalization of environmental issues. People are all staring at each other after the exam. You can answer another. Taj trapezium case, okay, Mehta case, Vellore Citizens Forum case. Okay, after UPSC asked the question, okay, that is why I'm not a very great fan of reading so many books for this examination, but I would like to read something which nobody else reads, so that I alone have something that others don't. That is very essential for this exam. Maybe in the days to come, you will slowly realize that. When you want to have a good reading for case laws and all that on different issues, MP Jain's Constitutional Law, but you go and ask any polity faculty, the first response is don't waste your time reading. Okay, it is true. Okay, that's why I say you should not read the entire book. But whenever time permits, no, you do a selective reading of that book. Or 4 case law every topic. Okay, if you would have read that book, you would have got the answer for this gender justice, case laws. Okay, constitutional perspective, gender justice, the help of relevant case laws and constitutional provisions. Okay, as soon as I saw this question, I got 2 case laws in my mind. One of the case law is what is called as Pragati Varghese versus Cyril George Varghese. Case, right? What is that case? That is a case in which the Indian Divorce Act was invalidated by the Supreme Court. Sorry, Bombay High Court, I think. Okay, what is Indian Divorce Act? It deals with marriage and divorce of Christians. We have different laws of marriage and divorce. So for Christians, the law that governs their marriage and divorce is what is called as Indian Divorce Act. And the act provision if Christian women wants to get divorce, sorry, okay, I'm a man, okay, Christian man. I want to divorce my wife. The only ground I can divorce her is on grounds of adultery. But if she wants to get a divorce from me, she has to prove that not only I was into adultery, but that she should prove that I was also involved in bestiality, torture. So, court as per the Indian Divorce Act, she will not be simply given divorce just because I was adulterous, but also because I was inflicting torture on her. Can you understand how different discriminatory the provisions are? Correct? And in this Pragati Varghese of Cyril George Varghese, that section was invalidated by the court. Okay, don't you think that allows for equality between Christian men and Christian women? So, constitutional perspectives on gender justice with the case law. Yes, like that, you get it everything from that textbook. Okay, so that should not be read in the first year of your preparation because you don't have the time to do that. But with time, prelims clear all அப்படினா நல்லாவே டைம் கிடைக்கும். அதை வந்து கொஞ்சம் நல்லா யூட்டிலைஸ் பண்ணலாம். Okay, so whether you clear prelims or not, the next period from after your next prelims, no, that is the best possible time you can get for your preparation. Okay, so make use of that time in a very productive manner. So anyway, yeah, I was talking about Rahul Gandhi's defamation case. When it comes to defamation, there are 3 case laws which are relevant. Okay, one is Subramanian Swamy versus Union of India. Second is Kushbu versus Kanni Ammal. Okay, then third is Rajagopalan versus State of Tamil Nadu. Okay, first Subramanian Swamy versus Union of India. It was in that case, defamation was challenged as a defamation law for 499 and 500 of IPC were challenged, contradictory and ultra vires of Article 90, but the court had upheld it. என்ன reasons upheld பண்ணாங்க அப்படிங்கறத find it out. Okay, Kushbu versus Kanni Ammal, that is also another significant principle put forward by the Supreme Court, which said that defamation applies not only to an individual but also to a group, but the group should not be an indefinite group, it should be a definite smaller group of individuals. Okay, that is the logic which the Rahul Gandhi's lawyers have argued, that Modi அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து it can be an indefinite group. நான் யாரையுமே டார்கெட் மோடி ஆஃப் அண்ணா நகர் அப்படின்னு நான் எதுவும் சொல்லல. Correct? So Rahul Gandhi's lawyers are arguing using Kushbu's Kanni Ammal principle that Rahul Gandhi's statements can be directed at an indefinite group of individuals. It is not a small limited group. So abdina it does not even amount to defamation. Right? That was a principle put forward. Do you know what is it Kushbu's Kanni Ammal case? That was a case where Kanni Ammal was a PMK worker. Patali Makkal Kachi, right? So she went and filed a case. Time achingla. Okay. All right. So we'll have some more sessions in the future. Okay, current affairs sessions. I'll meet you in the coming days. So as of now, we do have a lot of ground to cover, but I would ask you to do your own preparation. Please, just 1 more minute. After that, I'll let you go. With respect to defamation, sedition, hate speech, have 2 or 3 case laws in your hand. And the best websites to have a collection of case laws, I'm personally fond of this website called wire.com. Okay, wire, WIRE.com. Okay, wire, it's completely targeted by the BJP government because it's very, very anti-government. But it's anti-government with a clear set of logic, clear mention of cases. Okay, it's very critical, but that's how a media organization should be. So wire.com gives you good perspectives. You can filter out whatever you want to choose out of it, because most of the news platforms that I find online, except for Hindu, everything is pro-government. There is nothing tangible to have another side of the argument. So that is why Wire will give you good perspectives. You can have a look at them. Okay. So regarding hate speech, defamation, sedition, refer wire.com, get some case laws. Enforcement Directorate is another topic which you can go through in depth. It's very confusing. about the jurisdiction of ED with respect to PMLA and all that. Okay. So just go through it, and we'll meet in some other class with new set of topics, and we'll have some discussions. All right. Okay. Thank you.